Hello and welcome to the Next Level Podcast, a miserable podcast of secrets. The official podcast of thenextlevel.com, the-nextlevel.com. This is Eric Manch, your host, better known as Sleeve on the TNL forums, and with me as always is Chuck Forrester, better known as Chucks.
Yo.
And also with us is Chris Rubin, better known as McDeus.
What's up?
And also we have TNL's official, well, no, I guess unofficial, mascot. The man so memorable he only has one name, at least on this podcast. Mizzo, M-Z-O.
Holler.
And finally we have Nick Vlamakis, the fearless leader, who's going to tell us what's been going on with TNL this week right after he introduces himself.
So I have to make some kind of street, word.
Word. I was
that?
going to suggest word if you said anything else. That was good.
As a fan of the power of the word, I'm honored to use that as my as my catchphrase.
So Nick, please tell us what's been going on with TNL this week.
Well, it's been mostly suffering because I've been playing Zelda like a fucking idiot this whole past 2 days, so I haven't had much time to do anything else. But the arcade is back up, supposedly, theoretically. Don't look right yet, but if you go up there, we have a little time diversion. My goal is to eventually have people just going to TNL and staying there the whole day, just clicking link after link. And the arcade is... I put an arcade in because I went to a lot of different forums and I saw that they all have these stupid weenie games, and it's just like the whatever game comes with the arcade software, which is some Tetris clone and some version of Snake, where you have to guide the little dot around. So I put in a few games there that I think are pretty good, and we're going to be holding contests and things tied to that. And one of our forum members, Korean, is really gung-ho about getting some kind of tournament started. I don't know. So I just want to make him happy because I want him to be happy. So
I'm going to get a high-scoring garbage like Balloons.
Balloons isn't garbage.
Sounds good enough. All right.
You're already starting to put down good games. I don't know you're just so hateful.
Okay.
And then, of course, the holiday wish list thread is up, where people can put up their lists of games and movies and whatever else. Socks are a big item, I guess, and have other people from TNL look through their lists, get ideas for their own lists, and we got some gifting going on. We're pretty close. We've been together for a lot of years. So that's pretty much all that's going on this week.
And then as far as individual forum threads of interest, I think Chris is going to tell us a little bit about what's going on with that. Chris.
Yeah, well, one of the things which we're moving into is one of our members, Frogacuda, he actually brought up a kind of cool thing, which was a thread he called I'm Staring at the Future of Gaming, which was pretty much about those individual moments throughout time where you have that game that you see, and it just looks absolutely amazing, like nothing else that you've seen before. Personally, I think that kind of a lot of the gaps that have occurred in between generations, as well as we've gotten older and we get more used to things, we definitely have less of that as we used to. I mean, at least to me. I'm sure that, there's definitely people who don't play games as much, where whenever there's something like really big and new, like the first time you saw something like GTA 4, which was not as big a deal to me, but to some people, I mean, that sort of thing is just absolutely impressive to see a city realized just like that. But for me, I mean, I was thinking back, a lot of the stuff I didn't even actually get to listing in that thread, because I had a ton of games from back then. I remember one, which was, there was this coffee shop near me, which had a big computer that they could they would install random games on and stuff. And they actually had Quake on there. And this was back in the day when I had a 486. So I couldn't run games that had polygons on them. I couldn't run anything that was...
Wait, so you're telling me there was a tabletop, or there was an arcade machine that was playing Quake?
No, it was just a computer.
Okay,
that
all
was
right.
just
All right, well,
set up there.
I got you.
It was weird. This was I mean, this was like one of the first Pentiums that ever came out. So it was kind of odd to have this out. Like, this was way before the days of, those networking bars and stuff like that. But, man, it was... I just remember going in there and actually seeing Quake for the first time and having, the kind of the evolution of Doom.
Yeah.
And it was like, now it's fully realized things could actually move around in complete 3D and come at you.
Was it?
And
Was
it just
the
looks
whole
so
introduction
fucking great.
of polygons that did it? Was it the
Well,
the
no, because I
mind-blowing
mean,
thing?
I'd been introduced to them before. Like, I played Alpha Waves way before that, which was, I mean, well, if you look at it now, it looks like absolute garbage. And I mean, it was neat, but it was kind of just the realization of a world, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was much more adult, it was much more realized. It was like, this is going to sound dumb now, but here are realistically modeled creatures, like, moving around in 3D, yeah.
Somebody's
Like,
got a
it
hernia or
sounds so-
something?
It hurt a little bit inside to hear that.
Yeah, I think I just killed him. And I mean, it happens a lot with a lot of the stuff that used to blow me away. Like, and I feel so stupid saying this, but playing Battle Arena Toshinden for the first time.
Loser.
Oh Lord.
I know, like,
Yeah, what were
They
those?
were
What were those
so-
ads for the Sony PlayStation? Was that the "You Are Not Ready" when they started showing those ads in
Yeah.
1995? Was that Sony?
I
that
didn't
ran
even.
those?
I didn't
that-
understand those ads
was that
until
the
like
launch
a
of the
year
PlayStation?
ago. When it
You
would be
thought
like
it was
the
like
U,
you thought
and
it
then
was
the R,
UR note.
and then not, and then there was like a backwards red E,
Ready, yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
ready. You are not ready. I just got
Who
that
was-
like a year
who was
ago.
note?
Seriously.
I don't what.
And they had that
I
polygonal
think I
mascot.
still don't get it. What is there to get? Like,
It's a
what-
red
Dude,
E.
you're not
It's
ready.
instead
You're
of
obviously
saying
not
ready,
ready for that
they
advertising
show you
campaign.
a red letter E, which stands
Oh.
for the word ready. You are not red E.
Okay,
it?
I thought there was some kind of like reference to some Sony thing in that ad that
No,
I
it's,
missed.
No.
it's just a
Okay.
ready. That's
All
it.
right.
yeah, the Ready, I think, took me a while, too. Not that long, but...
30 years.
Um,
Then I was taking a shit one
But-
day, and all of a sudden,
Mizzo just thinks to myself, "Oh my God, it's a ready! I get it. I love it."
yeah.
because there was a
And I
blood in the
mean-
stool.
That's what I was
If you
going to
try to
say,
think
damn
about
it.
it
I thought it was
logically-
tasteless.
It was
The blood in the
tasteless,
stool.
and I beat you to
I
it.
bit my lip on that, and you took it. You ran with it. Anyway, we're
Oh, so
really
good.
Battle Arena Toshinden
Yeah.
disrupted this conversation. Let's get back on track.
All right, so
Yeah, I mean,
I guess
if you try to think about it logically, it makes no sense, because, like, Virtua Fighter had come out on the 32X, and I think it came out around the same time on the Saturn. So it's not like, 3D fighting games were out. It was just something about Toshinden just looked so awesome to me at home that I was just absolutely amazed to have this on a console at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, even though it's like the worst game ever.
I think for me, like the moment where I thought I saw the future of gaming, what came for me, like a lot of times, I don't know, I'm probably not the only person around TNL who's a big fan of Sega games, but I was always a big fan of Sega growing up, especially Sega arcade games. So I remember going to the local arcade in Scottsdale, Arizona, it was called Video Roundup, and like a roundup type of just explain that reference to people, like a cowboy roundup type of thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of older guys and chaps hanging around, and
Yeah, that type of thing. But they would have all of the new arcade games usually before anybody else did, and they would have the big sit-down Sega games like Galaxy Force. They would have like the full-on like rotating. I don't know if you guys ever saw that cabinet, but the one that got in, it was like a rotating cabinet that as you turn the stick around, it fully rotated, and then they had the G-Lock rotating that was actually a
Oh,
gyroscope.
the Afterburner G-Lock.
Yeah. Well, there was an actual game called G-Lock, and then they had a special cabinet that was actually a gyroscope that when you tilted it around, it actually spun 360 degrees. It was totally vomit-inducing. But that I totally thought was like the future of video games, and I remember totally being blown away by that, even though it cost, I think, like at that time, like $1 per play, which was like a lot. At least for Galaxy Force, I think it did. And then
It was a
also,
lot for like any game back then
yeah, oh yeah,
in
definitely.
the arcade.
And I also remember reading about this. I never actually got to see this. Maybe maybe Nick or one of you guys in Chicago got to see this, but the what was it? The Battle Mech centers that they had in Chicago.
Oh, I remember
Pods
seeing
and
those.
stuff.
Like
Yeah.
I remember, I
Yeah.
I was hugely a fan of like Battle Tech, the Mech Warrior games, and then I saw this in a magazine, like sometime in the '90s, and like I learned that they had actually set this up where everybody had these consoles. You sit down constantly, get into, you get to pilot your mech. I thought like, oh my gosh, this is the future. I can finally like get in and like pilot my own virtual reality mech. This is the best. But of course, it never ended up becoming that way. We sort of moved in a more like miniaturized direction towards the future, like in a future where everyone carries around games in their little cell phones.
In a future where
Steel
everyone carries
Battalion.
their own games on their cell phone.
Yeah, I guess there was Steel Battalion. That was kind of an aborted move in that direction, which I never actually played. But
But the sequel will have Kinect controls.
Oh,
yeah,
dear Lord.
can't wait for that.
I'll review it. Give me it. I'll review it.
And as far as like the full blown like Polygon era, like Chris was talking about with Quake, what I really remember again was arcade games. Like I remember Starblade, that old Namco game, which was basically an on-rails shooter where you moved around the crosshairs of the ship, and you couldn't really control where you were going, but it sort of just flew you around from place to place. And they even did, I think Namco also did Solvaloo, which is like a 3D version of, you pronounce it Xevious or Zevious? I think I've always pronounced it Xevious. But I remember thinking like that was totally the future of gaming. But again, it wasn't. I was wrong. So those are my big moments. They all have to do with arcades.
No, the earliest time I remember being blown away with anything was when I went to the mall, and I don't know if it was Babbage's or some store somewhere had a computer set up and it was running Prince of Persia, and I was back at home playing shitty Nintendo games.
Oh yeah, that
and
was
then on the
great.
computer it's like this incredibly animated dude running around and climbing shit, and it was like the coolest looking game I had ever seen until that point.
Yeah, I
And
remember
then
seeing that.
I think I
on
also saw
my-
California games, and that had, or maybe it was a Winter Olympics game, and that had really good animation too. But then that one ended up being really bad. The Prince of Persia was awesome.
Yeah, I remember seeing Prince of Persia the first time on my friend's Apple II computer, and it was just blown away by it. Just the
Just the
realistic
animation.
was
It
great.
was so impressive back
Yeah,
then compared to
yeah.
everything else. Started a
And
lifelong.
if you were like me, you brought it home and then got really mad at it because it was hard.
I loved Prince of Persia. No, I loved
Yeah.
every second of that game.
Oh yeah.
No, I liked it, but it was
I-
hard.
I see. I kind of had not so much that it was hard. It was just that I didn't like the very specific movement that the character had, where it was
Mhm.
like you push forward and like you,
There was
you
a
know,
bit
like
of a
you
delay
jump
to
a very
everything.
specific distance.
Yeah.
And
But
it
everything
was
was
like
very
when you walk,
controlled.
you
Like
do,
even
like,
though it
a
was delayed, it
square.
was still very controlled. Like you knew
Yeah.
when to push the button, and then 2 squares later or 1 square later, he would actually jump. So once we got used to it,
I don't think I ever fully caught up with that control until the first Tomb Raider.
Yeah, and that was cool because Tomb Raider. That was another moment where I was kind of taken aback by the technology. Like Super Nintendo, Genesis didn't really blow me away. It was more of an extension of things that already existed. It was cool. I was really excited for it, but I don't remember thinking, "Holy crap! They just changed the game." It was just like, "Oh, this is better. What I'm doing just better." But when the switch to polygons happened, I wasn't really big into PC games, and I had played Quake a little bit without mouse controls because that's how people first played Quake, and it was miserable. For anybody that remembers that far
Oh
back.
yeah, I remember that
Yes.
because I
You have to
played
make your
through.
config
We
file
were all
and
coming
stuff.
off Doom.
I played through Doom
Yeah.
and Doom 2 on just the arrow keys, not even the WASD.
Right.
Key
I went from
arrangement.
Doom to Doom 2. I did Dark Forces, so that had up and down, but it was super clunky up and down. And then Quake, I played like Dark Forces until I think somebody came home from college, somebody I knew, probably my friend's brother or something, and he was like, "Check this out, mouse controls."
Yeah,
And we were all just blown away.
Yeah, I could not adjust to that at first. It took me a long time to get used to that. I remember playing the demo of Quake and just being really, weirded out by it almost.
Well, you know what? Did anybody buy Quake? I don't think a single person I
No,
know
I
actually
didn't. I was in
purchased Quake
college
with
at the
money.
time, and
Yeah, they
I
were all in
played,
college, so everybody just stole the shit
just
out of
played
it.
I would have bought it if I had
played
any
the
interest in
demo.
it at all.
If my computer could run it, like I said, I had a 486. I couldn't run it at all.
Womp womp. Did you
I
hit the turbo
didn't
button,
upgrade my
Chris?
computer until like
Did you try that?
Well, you could run
Oh,
Quake on a
there
486,
was nothing.
couldn't you?
486 SX with 4 megs of RAM?
No.
No, I couldn't even run Duke Nukem 3D.
No.
Oh my god.
I remember stuff like that. If you
Yeah.
had Doom and you would minimize the screen size to make it, run a little bit faster, if you made it the smallest, it was like upgrade your computer, idiot.
Well, yeah, that's
But
what
yeah,
a
like-
lot of people did. Like, I remember doing that for, yeah, I remember doing that for games
I did that
like
for Tomb
Quake.
Raider. I played Tomb Raider on a tiny little window on my screen to make it run better.
Yeah, like
before the 3D effects card came out, and
I
then
played
the game
through-
just exploded.
I played through. I guess we're getting a little off track here, but I played through the original X-Wing on PC on a 386, and I just had to turn the detail down, like way down. But I eventually made it through, and I actually made the last level where you have to blow up the Death Star a little bit easier,
Mhm.
because if you turn
Right.
the detail down, you have less things to fly through.
All those,
So-
all that lack of shading and no Gora, all that
Yeah.
complete no shading or textures really slowed down the computers back then.
Yeah. So
Hey,
Well, yeah,
TNL
like
is
that-
console people. That's good.
But like
Let's
the
get on.
let's get back to consoles.
Yeah. Well,
We're console
yeah,
people.
okay.
Console
but what I was gonna
gaming.
say is like the big change that happened. I think for me, I don't know if it happened earlier for other people, but when I first saw it was when Mario 64 and Tomb Raider came out almost at the same time. And for me, it was Tomb Raider on PC and Mario 64 on N64. But it was just such. I think those were the first two games I ever played that did really. That was like 3D controls, 3D environments, only really well done.
Actually, yeah, that
So the
reminds me. Super Mario 64. The first time I saw it was I was at college, and this little
Were
store.
you in college for
You've been
like
in college
20
for like
years?
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time. I just graduated college last year. You
Are
guys.
you in college now? Do you have to study tonight?
Yeah, I got a big paper due tomorrow. But anyway, I stumbled into this small computer store that was, just off campus, and this guy had Super Mario 64 running on the Nintendo 64. This must have been like 1996. And I remember playing it just a little bit, and it just being blown away by the fact that Mario was in 3D. And,
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, wow, this is the third dimension, man.
Well, it was
Totally
cool how they
blown away
both
by it.
came out almost at the same time. So it was kind of for me, it was pretty much a tie as to which one. And then most 3D games followed the Mario formula afterwards. Not too many people copied Tomb Raider because, as you said, Tomb Raider was like the perfect realization of the original Prince of Persia in 3D, right down to the same control scheme and everything, like the way she would have delayed jumps and everything. So it was the exploration in Tomb Raider was incredible. Like I can't even describe playing this game for the first time compared to every other game I played before. The way I would climb the rocks and you get to the top and you come out. It's just that one level. You come out on the other side and there's like a jungle underground and you're like, what's going on? Why is there a jungle here? And then a raptor jumps out at you. You're like, okay, what? And then a T-Rex comes at you and it's over. That game was so good back then. And Mario 64 was less exploration. Well, no, it had pretty big environments too, but it wasn't as focused on exploration. I would say it was a bit more of a.
See,
I don't even know what it was.
with me, when we're talking about I'm staring at the future of gaming, I think to me the bigger impact was, and it's just because of stuff that was going on in my life around the time Mario 64 came out, but
Don't say Athena.
the original no, but a game very similar to Athena that actually inspired Athena. The original Super Mario Brothers, I remember that a friend of mine had it on a black and white TV, and the thing that impacted me the most was partly that it just came out of nowhere because I had seen I'd played Atari 2600 games, and I played one or two ColecoVision games, and I was familiar with that. I had no really PC gaming experience at all, but I just went to his house one day and he said, "Let me show you this." And there was that odd shaped NES box sitting there, and he put on Super Mario Brothers, and when I saw the little guy running through, and then you just jump up, and in midair there's an invisible 1-up box right near the beginning of the first. I freaked out. The level just kept going and going, and this game to me just seemed so vast. It's just like the whole future of gaming, the whole gaming universe was encapsulated in that. It just there were games before that were bigger than the one screen. Even Indiana Jones on the Atari 2600, you got to do a lot of different things, go to a lot of different places. But Mario was just a step above. The way you could control him in midair while he was jumping, the way you could slide under the bricks, it really blew me away. And
I remember all
64
the secrets too were just so
Yeah.
amazing
Right.
too, and even the fact that you could control the pace of the scrolling, from one end to the other. You couldn't scroll back, but you could explore. I remember being blown away by that, especially.
Yeah, it
they
wasn't
totally
one
nailed
little
the
thing.
controls
It was
for
everything.
Mario.
Everything just got better. When you saw Mario 64, I'm sorry, Super Mario Brothers, and the last thing you played was, Donkey Kong on a home console. it was amazing. It was really, and it turned out that it was the future of gaming because the NES was so seminal into launching. I mean, even the Super Nintendo and even the PlayStation, the Sony PlayStation came from that in a way, and Mario's still going strong today. And then I think the second game that really freaked me out was Lunar on the Sega CD. In fact,
Yes.
I think I said this on the old Game Go forums, and I haven't said it since because it's kind of embarrassing. But I had signed up for my first year of college, and I was kind of not into it at the time. I was really, just I'm signed up, I'm taking classes, but I just wasn't really into it. I was just one of my bored periods. And Lunar came out, and I saw it, and I bought a Sega CD, and I bought Lunar on the same day. I actually bought it with financial aid money that I got from college.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I took the financial aid money. I bought Sega CD. I bought
Take
Lunar,
note, U.S. government, right now.
and I started disappearing from classes. And
Nice.
I eventually dropped out of that semester and Lunar wasn't the whole thing, but I'll always remember that as
It was Sewer Shark, wasn't it?
Yeah, no.
There was also Mad Dog
He
McCree.
came back. He bought it
I
for
like
Lunar,
Dracula
but he came
Monster,
back for
whatever
Sewer
it's called.
Shark.
Yeah, but Lunar, when you have that video and like Alex, hey Alex, wake up, sleepyhead, and you have the intro song at the beginning, coupled with this classic RPG gameplay and just the things that really at that time I loved about role playing games. Couple that with all that animation and that voice, I just couldn't take it, and I just played it and played it like an idiot. And then the next game, I think after that, the next two games are related, and then I'll end it, but not my life. I'll end this little segment. But
Rats.
I love
Goodbye,
Zelda Skyward
Cruel
Sword so much that I'm just going to kill myself, man. No, Shenmue and Grand Theft Auto 3, which are kind of related. I read about Shenmue well in advance. I followed every bit of news on it. In fact, I haven't really done that with a game since because I kind of don't like to do that now because it spoils some things for me. I'd rather enjoy them. But Shenmue, I was in a frenzy just thinking that all these townsfolk could just walk around and go on with their lives, and you had all these possibilities. You could decide to follow the story. You could decide to wander around. You could, play Lucky Strike, or I think that was in the second one.
Would you like to have
Lucky Hit.
Lucky Hit,
Lucky
sorry.
Hit?
Lucky Strike
Did
cigarettes.
you want to play a game of Lucky Hit?
Excuse me, how about getting
Looking
Lucky
for the
Hit?
forward.
Can I interest you in a game of Lucky Hit?
Yeah, so I think,
How about a game of Lucky Hit?
and I think that the open world, which we talked about previously, did turn out to really be a big part of the future of gaming. So I think, unlike Sleeve, who said he was kind of wrong about some of the future of gaming instincts he had, I think that Mario Brothers, not Lunar kind of fizzled out. RPGs aren't like that anymore, but Shenmue and Grand Theft Auto 3, which also blew me away when I first saw it, and I saw the possibilities. I think it's a coupling of technology and the possibilities for experiencing things on your own terms and just really getting to show off your take on a game world. I think that's what really appeals to me and a lot of people.
Well, it's a unique thing about video games where even a finished product isn't really complete until they put it in your hands, and then you are kind of taking part in the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just that they create something; they create something that you then take a part of, and that's different from any other type of creation, art style, or anything. A painting's a finished painting, a movie's a finished movie, but a game is very much only half done, and you pretty much complete the other half with your action. Basically.
Oh, and kids, I did go back to school.
That's very profound,
and
isn't it? Thank you.
I please stay in school. Please take it from me. You'll have your own game site one
Don't
day.
drop out just to play the
boy.
latest video game.
I think I missed classes because of ZA, like the first 10 or 15 man dungeon in Warcraft.
Really?
If Chucks remembers that? Yeah.
What's
I do.
Classes for that. It was just
what's
linguistic
ZA,
crap.
Mizzo? Tell us what
It's
ZA
Zul
is.
Aman,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
and
God,
I'm not
here we
going to go into it because Warcraft is horrible.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, that's good enough. But thank you. Chuck, did you want to tell us about your?
Yeah. Mine's a
experience?
little different. I'm thinking you guys are talking about games and stuff of that nature, but I was thinking more along the lines of stuff like Phantasy Star Online being the first game on a console that people would be playing online only. I mean, you had the single player game, but it finally brought us. I know there was X-Band, and you could do horrible at Weapon Lord on Super Nintendo with that.
Nice.
But there was you'd really be playing with people. You'd start to get a group together that you knew, and it was a good time. I mean, I met a lot of people from TNL and GameGo that would play PSO. We would talk on the board. Hey, you know what? We're gonna log on around 10:30. Let's knock this out. It was a lot of fun. And then a little bit more later on the Dreamcast, I think it was even after the Dreamcast had stopped being supported, Alien Front Online came out, and you could use the voice chat. And I think that's the first console game you could use voice chat on. And then
First one I know
obviously,
of.
right? Well, I Wikipedia
Oh,
also.
yeah, that's right. It came with a microphone, didn't it?
Yep,
Yeah.
it did.
Yeah,
And that was a
yeah.
big claim to fame.
That was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
I remember-
and people weren't being stupid back then. They weren't calling everybody, racist stuff and asshole and what have you.
Yeah, I
We
remember
were
playing that
talking
with
about how to
TNL
play.
people too, or at least GameGo people,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think back then having an internet connection
right?
and actually, it was kind of a pain in the ass to sell that stuff up. So I don't know if any little kids had access to it. So that may have kind of helped a bit in terms of curbing the.
Well, I remember I was playing
population.
PSO on dial-up. I know that much.
Oh Lord, I know. So was I. I think I actually, because of my Dreamcast, is why I actually got my own account with AT&T. Before then,
It's
I
why I got
believe
my own
Internet.
line too.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Before
sure.
then-
I'm pretty sure I played it on dial-up also. Any Dreamcast games that I played online were on dial-up.
before then, I think
it
I had
had
like
a
free
broadband
account.
adapter, but it was so rare and hard to find, and it became
was
so
super rare.
expensive too.
Same
What was
thing
that?
happened with the GameCube broadband adapter also.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It
For
was all
PSO
about
again.
56K.
We gotta do a show on some of the internet technology, like the Sega Channel and
Yeah, I was just gonna talk about the
browsing the
Sega
internet.
Channel.
I
remember-
never used the Sega Channel. How did that even work? You got to play
Oh
games
my gosh,
on a
I
cable
can
channel?
talk
We
about
should-
it.
we
Yeah, I
we
only
should do a
heard
show.
about it.
Best
I had
friend
no
Mike
We're not going to talk
interest
about it
in
now.
No,
but
not
we
right
should
now.
talk
No,
about it
I'll
because
give
I
you
don't know
think
anything
of
about
think of
that.
on demand. Think of on demand.
Yeah. This,
But
it
this
was
is
way
like
ahead of
20
its
years
time.
ago. That makes no sense.
Yeah, it was
That was
revolutionary.
awesome. It was a special cartridge that you plugged your cable into. It had coax on it,
Shit.
and you plug it right into the Genesis. And I think you got to play Primal Rage like a month or so before it came
Yeah.
out.
Some of the best days of our lives.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was
With
when
the vomiting
summer,
monkey in Primal
you would be
Rage.
sitting
Yes.
home from grade school and you didn't have a job or anything, and you just veg out at your friend's house playing Sega Channel all day. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That sounds pretty rad.
And it was cheap too, comparative. Because you figure if you go out and you buy like Vector Man and Primal Rage and Sonic 2 and all these other games, and they were like, what, $60 a pop?
Mhm,
50
yeah.
for
Well, I
the
mean, that
cartridges?
right there is the future of gaming before anybody even had a concept of that would actually be like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
It
Digital
was rad
distribution
stuff.
100 years ago when we were still banging rocks around.
Sega way ahead of the curve, but just never
Never put
gets
the
it
Never able to
together in the
capitalize
end.
on it.
Yeah.
Always loses in the end, poor guys.
Were you able to save your games on Sega Channel? I forget. I know
Yeah, I
I played
believe
Shining
so.
Force 2 on it.
I'm not sure though. I have to
I'll have
think
to look
about
into
it.
that. Yeah, that's a good topic for another podcast.
Well, speaking of the future of gaming, let me take everyone back, move it, and segue into our next subject. Take everyone back to February 21st, 1986, when a game was released on the Famicom Disk System called, well, I won't even give you the Japanese name, but
Please don't.
It was-
don't
it was-
embarrass us like that.
later known to us as the Legend of Zelda. It was released in 1986 in Japan, and here we are in 2011, the 25th anniversary of the
It's
Legend
2011,
of
by the way.
Zelda. Yes, 2011. We're recording this podcast 2011. So we're on the 25th anniversary of this historic gaming series. And since that first game was released, it wasn't actually released in the United States until the following year. So it's 24th anniversary, I guess, if you're talking about, the only country that matters, the United States. But anyway.
All right, Michael Bay.
This is a big, important video game series that all of us have memories about. Some of us have played more games in the series than others, and of course this year we've seen the release of Skyward Sword, as well as a release on the Nintendo Wii, as well as a re-release of Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time on the 3DS, Nintendo 3DS. So the 25th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda is our main topic for the podcast today. So,
segueing into this, if you ask me my favorite consoles, I usually say like Dreamcast and Sega. I say a lot of Sega consoles, or even the Xbox 360. But when you think about it, when you think about the NES having Super Mario Brothers, having Metroid, and having The Legend of Zelda, it's such an accomplishment. The Legend of Zelda, when it came out, I mean, we had one TV in the house, and it was a Philco TV. We had this really cheap TV, and if you would stomp around in the house, the volume would go to max suddenly.
Nice.
Yeah. It was like automatic remote control, and then you would have to stomp on the floor again or hit it on the side like Fonzie to get it to go back down.
Did you have it hooked up with the little antenna clips, the little alligator clips?
We just had the rabbit ears, I think. So I mean,
I mean like the Nintendo system.
Oh, with alligator clips?
Or maybe I'm thinking of an Atari system now.
Yeah, don't interrupt me. Anyway,
I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm reminiscing, man.
You have to actually clip your consoles into the antenna thing for the really old TV.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it had these two little tiny like robot hands, with little prongs.
Yeah.
And you had to actually put them into the screws.
Yes, you did. I did have to do that, as a matter of fact.
Okay. That's what I was asking.
So we had the one TV.
Alligator clips are different.
We had the one TV in the house, and I would play Zelda every chance I got. I would have to actually do stuff around the house so I could earn brownie points to get on the TV more. And I played Zelda till it just almost burned into my retinas. I would close my eyes and I would see the overworld. I would see the Peapods and the Octoroks and whoever else.
Oh my!
Yeah. And
yeah, I remember that too.
Those are amazing gaming memories. I don't know if people. I mean, do you think people get even the same level of just being blown away with the game as because now there's just technology everywhere. But with Zelda, not only was the technology impressive, but the story, the characters, the size of the game, the way it almost became your life for days and even weeks on end. It's a very special series.
I know in those days there were fewer games available. So, I mean, the market was much smaller. So a big release like The Legend of Zelda, naturally had a bigger impact, it seems like. There were fewer consoles, fewer games coming out. So when a big cartridge like this came out, especially when it was golden, when the original cartridge was released, I guess that makes more of an impression on people.
And this was a game that didn't need any gimmicks. It didn't need a gold cartridge or anything. It was, I don't know. I haven't played it since then, but
yeah,
I don't know how well it holds up. But it was such a great game at the time.
I remember the first. Oh, you can go.
Yeah, thanks. I remember buying it. I was actually on vacation with my parents in San Diego.
In college.
When I first.
I thought you were in college.
No, I wasn't in college.
Fuck.
I had not reached college yet. I was still a grade schooler. But I got it at a hardware store while I was in San Diego, and I wasn't able to play the game right away. I had to wait what seemed like a week at least in order to get back home so I could play it, and I only had the instruction manual to read while I was on this vacation. So I was studying it. I was reading about it, and even before then I had heard about it. I read the Nintendo Fun Club newsletter, which was the precursor to to Nintendo Power, and they had described it in one of the issues, and they were hyping up this big game that was going to be released, and how it had it was so they said it was so big, that the game was so big that they had to add a battery into the cartridge in order to save your progress because the game was just so massive. So I had no concept of what this game was going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be first person. I don't know if it was going to be, what I had heard of role-playing games before. I hadn't really played them much, so I didn't know how this was going to play out on the Nintendo. And even, the instruction booklet doesn't really give you a really good idea. It has all these funky cartoon drawings of Link, at least in that, anime style. So other than the screenshots, I didn't really know what I was getting into. And of course, when I finally got the game, I was really addicted to it. And all my friends, of course, got into it. And since I had gotten it before my friends, I was able to give people hints, discover secrets, and tell people where things were located, that type of thing. And actually, I wanted to confess something for the first time ever on this podcast.
You dress as Link?
Yeah, I want to take this opportunity to make a confession. Well, I mentioned the Nintendo Fun Club newsletter. They did a call. Oftentimes they would publish people's high scores. And if you got a particularly good score in a game, you take a picture. Remember those days? You take a photograph of you beating the game or getting especially high scores, send it in a Fun Club newsletter, they publish it. So when I finally beat Zelda for the first time, I took a photograph. I was so I figured out how to beat Ganon. Shoot the silver arrow at him after hitting him enough times, and I beat him. I was so psyched. I was the first person to beat the game among my friends. So I sent the picture in, and then the next issue of the Nintendo Fun Club newsletter, they published my name along with a bunch of other people as being the first people in the country to finish the second quest, the second quest.
Yeah.
And of course, that was another big thing that the Zelda game had. Was a second quest that was much more difficult. Everything was moved, enemies were harder, and all that stuff. So, again, I mentioned how there were fewer media outlets, there were fewer games available. People were, looking all over the place for information about Zelda. So what happened was, people didn't know much about the game, but they knew about this newsletter. So people saw my name in this newsletter, and they called me for, all over the country. They called my house. They called me, asking me for hints on, the second quest, how to find some dungeon. And I would tell them, if I was there, my parents were a little bit weirded out by it. But I guess my number was unlisted, but somehow people would get my number through my uncle, and they would pass it on. And then I became, even more renowned as the person, one of the first 6 people to finish the second quest. But the truth was that I never actually finished the second quest. I never did. I got to the very end, and I never bothered to actually find Ganon in the Death Mountain dungeon. I just got lost, and I just got tired of looking for him. But for years, I was known as the Nintendo Fun Club newsletter. I would still get calls from random people who referred me, people who worked at hardware or electronic stores would pick this up, and they would say, "Oh yeah, call this guy. He'll be able to tell you." I even parlayed that into writing a column of hints and tips for Nintendo games for the local video store because of this. It was the strangest thing, and it was all based on a misunderstanding.
You mean a lie?
Deceit. It wasn't really a lie, because I didn't lie and say that I had beaten the second quest. I just sent in this photograph.
They just published. Nintendo
some
just
functionary,
published.
Some editor over there just assumed that I had beaten the second quest, and then published me as one of the people who beat it.
I was so envious of you till you told me that you hadn't beat it, because that was my biggest shame. I announced that I never actually beat the second quest.
I mean, I got to the very end. I just never found Ganon the second time, so I never did it.
and I've never really played Mario 3
So,
either.
would you call the whole farce a miserable pile of secrets?
Yes, I would call it a pile, even a miserable pile of secrets.
Secrets are revealed,
for
souls
you
are fused
the
together.
first time today.
We become stronger. We become
Final
closer.
destination, no item.
Yeah.
Now,
So that's
see, unlike
that's
Nick,
my biggest Zelda.
I kind of had a backwards thing going on there. By the time I got Zelda, that whole code to just go right to the second quest I knew about,
Yeah.
and so I only played the second quest.
I did the same damn thing, and I was waiting to tell that story, and you just fucking
That
out
is
of
so
it.
You just
weird.
But
put
I did
Zelda
the same
in as your
damn
name,
thing.
right? Is that the code?
Yeah, that was the code.
Right.
But I
Yeah,
never
and that
thought
was
to
the
do
thing,
that.
like,
I would always want to play
you
the
did that-
first.
I didn't find out until years later that the second quest was harder than the first quest.
Right.
I think it must have been, God, it must have been years until I actually went, so what is the difference? What is
The
the first
original
quest? I went
quest-
and tried it and was like, oh my God, this is so
he's not
silly.
asking,
The original
we know.
quest is
We
a
don't wanna
trap
hear.
devised by Satan, and you have to play it through the second time to get the true ending. It's just like that. I don't know. I
Those
never beat the
goblins.
second quest.
Well, the
get
ending
it.
isn't. I've seen the ending. It's not that different. I mean, it calls you out by name rather than the
Zelda's a dude.
it's the exact reverse of
The
Metroid.
tunic drops.
Yeah.
The jaw drops.
Oh, no, that was
It's just a
Metroid.
bulge.
That was Metroid.
Yeah,
I'm
it's,
getting
it's
them
doing
confused.
it's doing a transsexual, you know, years before Final Fight tackled that controversial transsexuality, that controversial topic.
By the way, on a side note,
about Birdo?
I contacted Nintendo after I got possession of TNL because I had all these old Fun Club newsletters that were just laying around, and I wanted to scan them and put them up on TNL just for public interest. And they wouldn't let me do it. They pretty much said, if you put that stuff up, we will sue you. But they said it in such a friendly way. Yeah.
That was Nintendo, though. They were known for not letting anybody do that kind of stuff with any of
I
their
might ask them
content.
again because
Maybe they're nicer now that
I
they're
think they should go
not
up.
as
I think
awesome.
those are cool. I mean, I remember the issue about Metroid and Kid Icarus got me really excited about those games. They were very effective tools because you felt like gaming was so friendly back then. Zelda and Mario, it was just such a friendly time. And
Games were made to.
but
to make
lawyers
you
are
in the
behind all the
butthole back
fun.
then.
You know, they're standing behind there with bats, and so I guess you got to kind of do what they say.
Well, I remember the first time I ever saw Legend of Zelda. I must have been like 7 or 8 years old, and I went to some dude's house. I don't even remember who this kid might have even been, but I think he was somebody that my mom might have been seeing. Like not the kid, but the dad. And then the kid was like the son of that
More
person.
miserable piles of secrets.
Because
come out
they're
in
not.
the
No, that would be
podcast.
horrible. But it's like I don't remember this kid at all. I don't think I ever saw him again. Just this one time, I went to this dude's house. He had a Nintendo, and he was showing me like to get out of the adult's hair. You know, he's like, "Let's play Nintendo or whatever." And I had never seen the Nintendo before, first time ever. And for some reason, I thought Mario like shot barrels out of his hand instead of fireballs. Like that's a memory I carried with me until I finally was able to play my own system. Just for that one night of playing, it's like Mario shot barrels out of his hand. I don't know why. And he let me play The Legend of Zelda for like a hot second. And I started the game. I got the sword. I went up one screen, and there were these octopi that were like shooting rocks at me. And I was so scared that I didn't leave the edge of the screen. And I just sat there staring at them, waiting for like an opportunity where I could enter the screen and maybe even try to kill one. And I realized that being on the edge made you invincible. And I kind of stayed there really long until he got annoyed with me. And then he took the controller and he started to play. So that was the first time I ever played Zelda. And then I rented it like a year or two later. And I did the second quest, like Chris said. And that was it until I bought it. I mean, I think I actually purchased it and beat it legit, like the first quest, after Super Nintendo came out. Like, I waited on that a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, my only other really, really strong memory of Zelda from back then was actually about Link to the Past. Because for some reason, like, I didn't have an SNES when Link to the Past actually came out, and so I would only play it when I was over at one of my friends' houses.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember this one time we were having a sleepover and watching Casino. And I was playing
Whoa, hold
Zelda.
on. How old were you?
How old is Casino?
This wasn't with Mizzo's mom's friend, is it? This is
the same guy.
Chris was Mizzo's mom's friend.
I don't recall. I mean, it was early teens.
That's
But
too
yeah,
young
it was
for
like
you.
on one TV we had Casino, and on the TV next to it I was playing Zelda. And so it's like whenever I hit certain parts in Link to the Past, I remember scenes from Casino
Wow.
because I just ended up with that association. Kind of like how,
Yeah.
like the first time I played Parappa the Rappa, I was eating Funyuns, and so for some reason every time I play Parappa, I smell Funyuns.
That's appropriate though. That's oddly appropriate.
That does sound about
I'm okay
right.
with that. Well, I have one of the Stone Temple Pilots CDs just linked completely with Mario 64 because I got them both for Christmas. I think it was Tiny Music from the Vatican gift shop for some reason. Just if I hear that, it's Mario 64 memories everywhere. And Populous is Ordinary World by Duran Duran because the music video was playing at the time, and for some reason it kept happening when I was playing Populous in the same room, and for some reason that's just linked forever. Anyway.
I have a memory of what was it? Link's Awakening. I got that when I was as soon as it came out. But the way for my parents to keep me quiet while we were on a road trip to where we were going for vacation was to just buy me a Game Boy game whenever they came out.
Nice.
And I definitely played the hell out of that game on the way to Nags Head from Maryland. So it's like a 9-hour drive. And back, and it was good times, and they did not talk to me at all for that vacation, and it was so good. That game was so awesome.
It was a really good game. I was expecting it to be kind of crappy because Mario Land was a little crappy compared to Mario. You know, I didn't really
crappy. Mario Land was really crappy.
Dude, I really like Mario Land. Mario Land
no,
was
it's
fun.
good, but it's crappy.
But it's crappy
because by that
compared to
time
Mario,
2 had come out, right? Or had 3 even come out?
I don't know if 3 had come out. I don't think so.
No,
89.
I think
3
had come out. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say, but I seem to think it did come out at the time that Link's Awakening came out.
Link's Awakening,
no,
yeah,
Link's Awakening,
but not
Mario
like Mario Land.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Link's Awakening, because the early Game Boy games were very like Mario Land. They were very pixely and not cool pixely.
Oh yeah, it definitely came out a couple
just,
years
like,
after
squarish.
Super Mario Land.
But then by that time, yeah, because there was
93.
Mario Land came out after Mario 3. Mario 3 was 88. Mario Land was 89.
But wasn't there like a Mario
you
reference
sure?
in Link's Awakening? Like there was some dude with the big nose and Marin, right? Like from the first town?
Oh yeah.
Or not Marin, that's the chick.
I think you're right.
Her dad looked like Mario.
Yeah. You know, I only played Link's Awakening until recently when it came out as a downloadable for the 3DS, and I really liked it. Except I'm stuck at this one part where apparently you have to fish. You have to do a lot of fishing, and every time you want to fish, you have to farm for rupees in order to fish. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I think that's what I have to do in order to progress, and I just keep screwing up the fishing part. So I'm never able to earn enough money to buy the shovel, which is apparently what I need to proceed. But other than that, it's a pretty good game. I like the fact that you can fish in the game.
Did anybody?
The fish just gives you. I mean, you can get a heart piece from there. You don't have to do that to earn money. You can like cut grass, kill enemies, or do whatever else.
Did anybody play Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link? I remember.
Oh, the worst game ever made. The most horrible game created by Nintendo that people love.
I know a lot of people don't like it. I actually loved it. I think it's gonna
get the fuck out.
It's gonna tie into when I talk to Dark Souls later in this podcast. But it was hard as hell. It was of course very different. It was it had leveling up, had experience points. You could learn magic spells. And
there was side-scrolling too, right?
Yeah, it was side-scrolling.
Side-scrolling was the meat and potatoes of the game, though.
And these palaces that you had to make your way through, and if you died, you go back to the beginning. Like it was all or nothing. Like especially.
You know what? Right now, I can hear every song from that game. I can hear every single song from that game right now in my head.
The music
every
from
single
Zelda 2 was awesome.
It was great. Yeah, it's such a different game, and it's the last really major experience I remember with a Zelda game.
That's just leave.
Especially
leave the door behind you and hide there forever.
I was
memories of Nintendo Fun Club.
I remember being sick a couple of times. I think I might have had the chicken pox or something, and just spending that time home from school just playing through that game and just like. And occasionally my mom would be concerned about how frustrated I was getting because I kept like dying over and over again. But I eventually did
you
beat
ever
the
get
game.
it to glitch out?
I don't remember. I probably did. I played the game enough. I spent a lot of time playing it. But yeah,
I remember I did something somewhere. It was on one of like the swamp, because remember whenever you got hit by a guy on the overworld, it would turn into the side scrolling.
Yeah.
And I specifically remember like a slime hit me near a swamp, and it was a very swampy area, and then something messed up horribly with my game, and it was like whatever you do, you would level up whatever it was you were doing. And it just let me level up everything after it, and I just murdered the game after that. It was fantastic. Don't know how it happened, but I remember very specifically it happened at my friend Brandon's house, and I could never get it to do it again.
You were error.
I was error.
You should have reported it to Nintendo Power. You could have been a celebrity and have people
I know,
call
and
your
then
house.
I could have built a false life over it. Like some
I
people.
remember there was a shortage of Zelda 2. I don't know if it was manufactured by Nintendo, the shortage, or
Because
if it was
they
a
knew it was
legitimate
bad.
shortage, but it
They're
made you
buried in the
really
desert
want
with
that
ET.
game. You wanted it so badly, and then I finally saw there was this like maybe this is the same guy, but there was this middle-aged guy that we all knew.
Same
that
dude. We all knew.
Yeah, a short guy with a mustache. He kind of looked like the Baron from
Crazy
the first
old
Punch-Out.
Maurice.
And he had the game, and by the time I got around to seeing it, it just totally killed my desire for the game. He just showed me like 5 minutes of it, and I had no interest in playing it. It wasn't the Zelda that I knew, and it didn't look particularly good on its own. So I never played it. I never actually played Zelda
wow.
2.
I mean, at the time that I played it, I mean, there wasn't really an established Zelda thing. I mean, it was
The
it was
first
just the
game.
second. Well, I mean,
was the
there was
first game
that,
that we
but I
played
mean,
to
that
death.
was it. I mean, as far as I knew, like, and I guess that's sort of what later turned out to be the case. Like, every Zelda sort of redefines the legend, as it were. So, well, I don't know. Is there a Zelda canon? Really?
No.
Ganon.
You get shot at.
There's no like central continuity. I mean, you can't identify all of these games.
I
in, like,
think they
some
did.
time.
I think they did come up with one, and they put it on
Period.
the Nintendo site or something, but I never read it.
Well, it's like
They might have,
I think the first Zelda might be the most recent escapade of Zelda and Link in all of these timelines. I know Link to the
Well, no,
Past
'cause
was obviously in the past. Oh, Zelda 2 was after Zelda 1.
I think Zelda 2, yeah,
right
is a
after
direct
Zelda
sequel
1.
to the first
Yeah,
you
because
could
Zelda.
Ganon's
call-
dead,
you could-
and they need your blood to bring him back, so it's definitely right after.
You could
So Zelda 2 might be the
conceivably-
latest.
Yeah, you could conceivably call Link's Awakening a side story because, but when is that supposed to take place?
I don't think it really matters all that
Yeah,
much, but
I
Link's
guess it doesn't
Awakening,
matter.
I'm pretty sure is linked to is linked to the first two Zelda games in terms of timeline. So at some point he went sailing between the two games, and that's when it happened.
Ah, okay.
So is there more than one Link? Because and I've said it on the podcast a few times. They're all different Links. It's not the same Link each time. But is it?
They're descendants of the same bloodline, of the same incestuous, horrible bloodline.
There's a lot of inbreeding.
Yeah.
Link and Zelda just keep on hooking
Yeah,
up, and
no
their
kidding.
kids
Gonna
just
get a
marry
hair
each
lip
other.
next
And
edition.
The one-eyed hunchback Link.
It's like the Habsburg Empire all over again. Wow.
that's why they need the Triforce. The Triforce keeps them from creating inbred kids.
bloodline
You heard it here
pure.
first.
The Triforce of Wisdom. That's what it does.
All right. What came out after? Oh, it was Link to the Past came out on the Super Nintendo. That was probably the next.
Yes, that was the next
That was
one.
one with the.
And that was
They had the
one of the
rain
best,
effect, didn't it?
I think.
Didn't that?
Yeah,
At the very
I know that.
beginning, yeah.
Oh my
when Zelda's
God.
talking to you in your dream, and then you wake up and your uncle's not home, and you go outside and it's raining, and it's like thundering too.
Yes, it was
And
serious.
then you
and
wake
it
up and
looked
it's
so
real life.
amazing. That game looked so amazing at the time.
I love that game.
One of the best games of all time, probably.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, I played the hell out of that one too, and it was on a borrowed Super Nintendo because I had a Genesis, and I didn't get a Super Nintendo till years later, like after the. I mean, I'm sorry, years later, and I just borrowed the Super Nintendo, and I just kept it as long as I could, just to play that game. I don't know why I just didn't
Lock
buy
the
it.
doors, turn the lights off.
Yeah.
No one's home.
I think
Yeah,
we had gotten a new TV by then, so I could I could walk around without waking up everybody in the house with my Zelda fanfare. with that old broken TV.
Fanfic.
Yeah, I didn't really play A Link to the Past until after I became a part of the.
Oh my god.
Well, until years ago, until I came.
I'm learning so many reasons to hate you today.
Until I became a part of the TNL community, and then I picked it up used at a local bookstore, and because I was a Genesis guy at the time it came out, and I was playing Genesis games. I felt like I had outgrown Legend of Zelda. I was all about playing Strider, like the arcade conversion Strider. That was my favorite game at the time.
I mean, you were in college at the time. So
No, I wasn't in college at the time. I was in 7th or 8th grade. But yeah, I just I guess that leads into kind of another question that sort of always comes up with every Zelda game. I just felt like it looked like the same game over again. I know that there were a lot of improvements made to it and a lot of changes made, and other people can speak to those better than I can.
Is there really a difference between like all the breasts you've seen, for instance? I mean,
oh yeah,
they're pretty
exactly.
much. I mean,
no, but
we're going with this.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, I mean,
it's
a big criticism
kind of the same
of
thing each time.
a big
as long as it's
criticism of
great.
the Zelda games is that it's the same sort of formula every time. Link never talks. I know that Mizzo's talked about that some,
Well,
and even up
to the point of Zelda 3, you couldn't really make that claim. Because Zelda 3 was kind of a throwback to Zelda 1, but it kind of invented a lot of the puzzles Zelda 1 kind of invented a lot of those puzzles.
By Zelda 3, you mean Super Nintendo?
Yeah, it's the same fucking game, you're right. Link to the Past, yeah. It's the same game.
It's an evolution.
There was just more boomerang in the first game. That was it.
I don't know. Zelda 3
Otherwise-
was just miles above what I expected them to do. It just knocked my ass off. I couldn't deal with it. It was so good. Everything about the game was just so good. All the different items
I mean,
you
the whole-
get. The whole like,
Dark World
dungeon.
concept.
And the game goes on forever, too. There's like 1 million dungeons, and they're all cool.
Yeah,
and you keep getting new items.
Zelda Link to the Past had a purpose. There was a reason for it to be made. It showed off the hardware, and they could do a lot of cool stuff. Something like Twilight Princess, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure, didn't really have a reason to be made, even though I love the game, But
It did have a reason, but it was a bad reason.
yeah, I mean,
It was that, oh no, the people don't like the amazing look of Wind Waker. Let's placate them by making this kind of realistic Link who only idiots care about. Ugh.
Yeah, well, Zelda Link to the Past was it was the right time for it, and the technology was there, and I think it differentiated itself enough from the original that I mean, you could play them probably back to back and be satisfied.
I don't like the maps in Zelda games, by the way. Skyward Sword is a good map, but Forever, like in Link to the Past and in Ocarina of Time, it's just like a picture of the entire world with no details to it, and then it shows a giant fat Link head in the middle. You are here. And you're like, what? How is this helping me in any way? What is the purpose of this map? I'm in the north.
How do I get over
Is
here?
there a
Chunk of
section?
Hyrule.
Is there a
Thank
section
you.
in the sea that says "There be dragons"? Is it like a medieval style map?
It's not quite that
No, they
big.
just surround it with clouds.
Yeah, it's surrounded by clouds, so you don't know where it is. Somewhere in fake Europe, I'm sure, where all the fantasy takes place.
So if I see an app called Zelda GPS, I shouldn't download it because it's not going to be
It's
helpful.
just going to be a giant
just a big
picture
of the U.S.
It's going to be like the state you're in, and then a giant picture of your head in the middle,
Your
smiling,
me
and that's
face.
it.
So why does
Maybe.
why does this
Where you
app
are.
need permission to access my camera? Oh,
But yeah, no, I think my cousins actually came into town, and they would come in. They're not really my cousins. They're like my mom's friend's sons, but my mom and her friend are so close that they may as well be my
your mom
cousins.
has a lot of close friends and cousins, doesn't
Yeah.
she? Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, did
But,
you wrap it up?
What?
Oh, never mind. That was me. Jeez.
Anyway, they
awkward.
came over, and they would come from Venezuela like once a year, and they would bring just tons of money from somewhere. Like they would save up money to come to the United States to shop like crazy, and then go back to Venezuela with their goods for another year. And one of the big shopping sprees were a bunch of Super Nintendo games, and one of them ended up being Zelda: A Link to the Past. And long after everyone else had fallen asleep, I was still there playing that game. And the next day, they were going to go to another shopping mall, and I'm like, you know what? You guys can go shopping, and I will stay at the apartment that you're renting. I will stay at the hotel playing Zelda all day long while you guys go shopping. And I did that. And I actually beat it before they came back, and I was like, I'm done. I threw the controller at them. I'm out. I'm going home. It was pretty much the greatest game ever.
Good. You're right.
All right.
Yeah.
That seems to be the general
Especially
consensus.
That scene where Robert De Niro comes in.
When Zelda 3?
I don't remember.
Is this talking about Casino?
He played Casino.
I got it.
Are we talking
He tried to
about
his
the
car
movie
and it blew
Casino
up.
now?
What part was the pin stabbing scene? What was that?
Oh, that was
I don't know. It's just I play through it, and when I reach random dungeon points, I remember scenes.
It just flashes in front of your eyes.
You fall into a seizure, you're like shaking on the ground,
Oh, too soon.
thinking about Casino. Oh, I see. I see where you went, Chuck.
So, how many years between Link to the Past and the following console installment? It seems like there was a big gap there.
Forever, yeah.
well because
but that's how it should be.
Ocarina of
That's what
Time
makes
was the
them
next.
special. That's exactly how it should be.
That was the next
Was it
console game,
Ocarina?
right? I
Yeah, because Super
guess it
Nintendo,
was.
Nintendo 64, they were...
Well, what
Yeah,
about the
there
what
was
about the Capcom?
there was Oracle. There was
Yeah,
Oracles of
Oracle.
Seasons and Ages, but those weren't. I mean, those were just Game Boy games.
Yeah.
just
just
Game Boy
Capcom.
games. Come on,
Yeah, they were
good.
Game Boy Color, right?
I know. Yeah, Game Boy Color. They were good though. I'm just saying.
Well, he said console.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, console. Yeah, that was
Pay
a huge
attention,
gap.
Lizzo. God.
Ocarina.
I don't listen to you guys when I'm not talking.
I'm sorry, what were you saying? I wasn't paying attention.
Who are you people?
What's going on here?
So what?
No, it was a good long wait. And like Mizzo said, that's how it should be. You know, you don't want to farm them out like Call of Duty every year.
Yeah,
And in fact,
I bought a Nintendo. I pre-ordered a Nintendo 64 with Super Mario, I think 64, and I pretty much just gave it to my brother because something else was going on in my life. So I said, I don't have time for this. I was going to college with Sleeve, so
Everyone's
we were
going to
both
college all
too
the time.
we were both too cool for Mario games.
Making
But
our
that-
way
You didn't
through
want to make the
world.
same mistake as you did with
Yes.
Lunar.
But then I ended up getting another Nintendo 64 just to play Ocarina of Time, which I probably don't like as much as most people. I mean, on a scale of 100, it's 90 something for sure. But it just seemed
98.5.
like a little drab to me compared to. I mean, Skyward Sword. I think I'm not even sure. I haven't finished Skyward Sword, but I just kind of even like the environment of Skyward Sword better than I do the Ocarina of Time. It just seemed a little drab to me, and something about the art style, or it just like when you go to a 3D movie and you put the glasses on and the picture looks darker. There's just something about it. It just seemed like it should have been brighter on multiple levels. There was something about Ocarina of Time where I didn't quite hook into it like most people did, even though I loved
You know
it.
what was
It
cool
was-
and then quickly not cool was how huge Hyrule Field was. Like initially it was pretty cool, and then it very quickly became not cool because you had to like roll your entire way around that thing, and it was really annoying.
You have to mash
yeah,
A.
ha, just constantly. Ugh.
It was like Game of the Annoying Voice samples. I mean, it definitely was darker than like Link to the Past, just in terms of color. Like it was, Link to the Past was definitely like lots of bright greens and stuff. I think the only
Pink hair.
you
Don't
know
forget, Link had pink
Right.
hair in Link to the Past.
when he turned into a bunny too. Like there
Oh,
was
yeah.
that like misty forest. Yeah, the furryism. And then
No.
certain parts of Dark World, but that was about it. Like it was just a break game. I don't know. I loved Ocarina of Time when it came out. I'm not sure I could go back to it now. Maybe one day when I get a 3DS, I'll pick it up. But like it was just amazing to me at the time. It was like the perfect transition of that formula into 3D. The lock-on combat was so
Oh,
good.
yeah. I love that.
I loved it when you actually became adult Link and you were wielding around like the big ass
Big
sword.
sword, yeah. The night and day
Yeah.
cycle was awesome, I thought at the time.
Mhm. Oh, there was
I
just
think
so
a
much
mistake
that
that was made, maybe, now that I'm thinking about it, I might be wrong, but remember those big, what were those called, pea hats or whatever, those big oranges with the propellers on
Yeah,
top?
and they were giant in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I
like,
don't think that worked. I think them trying to bring in every villain from the previous games. I think maybe if they had just gone a little bit different and done something different with there's just something about the design where I think they blew it with something. And the pea hats or whatever they're called, they didn't really work for me. And a lot of the villains, it just seemed like they should be doing something different. It's hard for me to place my finger on it, and maybe somebody.
The Stalfos were cool. The Tektites were cool. I liked most of the enemy designs. I really didn't have an issue with it. The Dongos were pretty cool. I guess just I mean, yeah, the lever's a little weird, but whatever.
And
You know, one thing-
Ganondorf or whoever looked like some guy I knew, some Pakistani guy I knew.
Some Pakistani.
So when you have to put like the sword in his eye at the end, it just
Would you call Zelda? Would you call Ocarina of Time racist in that respect?
I didn't realize Pakistani was a race, but no, I don't think so.
It is now. So are we. I really liked, not really the normal design of Ganon, but the way he transformed at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was really nice, because it was like the early Zeldas, Ganon was just fat. He was just a big fat pig.
Big fat pig.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay. Like, what do? Oh, you fight fat people. Like, that's your ultimate nightmare
It's
in this
fattest.
world. Right. And then in Ocarina, like, they had Ganon turn into like this huge gigantic demon after you beat him during the normal sequence, and that was really great. That was actually the one thing that kind of disappointed me about Wind Waker, was that Ganon was a giant marionette puppet at the end.
That was kind of weird. I
just
kind of
did
didn't like
not-
that too.
Yeah, the rest of the game was really great, but it was like, when I got to that, like, I was expecting kind of the evolution of that demon Ganon, just done better.
Yeah, well, we're not there
But
yet.
instead, he was
We're
just
not
like,
there yet.
balls.
Our boat hasn't arrived yet. Or has
Spoiled
it?
everything
was
about
cool.
every Zelda game.
So
Why
is
not?
Ocarina? Has everybody here played Ocarina?
I'm playing through it now. I'm about like 5 hours into it.
So you
So
just started it.
Yeah.
All right, of those true gamers at this podcast, is
Hey, look, I don't
Ocarina
play
your-
a lot of Nintendo games. All right, that's just what I'm about.
It's a
okay?
little-
Yeah,
You're
you
in
just got out
college,
of
you're too
college
adult for
yesterday.
that.
Come on, is Ocarina everyone's favorite? Or
I don't know.
is it the top two or
I don't
three?
think
Is
so.
Not
it
my
top
favorite,
three for
man.
everybody?
It was at the time.
It's top three. It's
I don't
definitely
know.
top
Like
three for me.
I guess I've played.
I'd
I
give
guess
it
I could
that.
play a. Let's say at this point I played 3 Zelda games, and I would say Zelda 2 is my favorite. So
Zelda
screw
2.
all
Never
y'all.
heard.
Okay. No, but I really like it. I
Wow,
know it's
that's-
different from the rest of the series. I feel like the series sort of seems to have like fallen into the formula to the extent that people criticize formula that Zelda's fallen into. It seems to have crystallized around the time that Ocarina
Yeah.
of Time came out. So the series wasn't quite as defined when Zelda 2 came out. And I just like the gameplay in Zelda 2. I really enjoyed it I think it's defined like a lot of the types of games that I like, I guess.
Fair enough.
Zelda 2.
I mean, there's
so.
nothing wrong with having. There's nothing wrong with having like a main archetype for the series. You just need to spread them out so that each new one has a reason to exist. Like you have new hardware, you can do new crazy stuff with it. Then by all means, make a very similar game with just brand new stuff all up in your face, and I will buy it. It will be amazing. But if you are crapping them out every year, it loses whatever it is that made them special in the first place, and you kind of get to see just how similar they really are, and it kind of takes away from it a little bit. And on that note, we should talk about Majora, because it was so different and it was so good, and how that dude should make more Zelda games, because that was one of my favorites right there.
What was different about
I-
Majora's Mask?
Well, I think the main difference...
Everything.
I mean, obviously you have the whole time issue where you basically have 3 days to get everything done, and at the end of those 3 days the world ends. So you learn the Song of Time to go back in time and start those 3 days over again. So it's kind of like Groundhog Day. You're just living the same chunk of time over and over again.
God, I wish I had the Song of Time when I was playing Star Control.
And I don't even understand that. But then you...
PC game reference.
So like the very first 72
Yoshi would
hours...
understand.
Probably.
If you take too long, the universe explodes or something, or the war starts and you can't win.
Yoshi doesn't listen to
Okay.
this.
But like the first 72-hour period is kind of tight, but after that you learn, or you're supposed to. It hints strongly at the fact that you can twist the Song of Time around in different ways, like change the notes of the song, play it backwards or play it, I forget, like double notes, I think, so you can either slow down or speed up time. So then your 72-hour period becomes a much longer period because you slow down time. And at that point, there is no excuse for anybody to complain about a time limit in the game because you have forever to get whatever you want done. Just basically forever. So it's basically you would start the day, the 3-day cycle, you do a dungeon. There's only 4 dungeons. And then you would finish everything you can do with it. You go back in time, you start again, you go to the next dungeon, you do that. But in between the dungeons, which almost weren't the main draw of the game, was the town, the village, that had so many different characters in it. And really early on, you got a bomber's notebook from this little group of kids called the Bombers who would help people every day. That was what they did, which is ridiculous for kids to do. But you would get this notebook, and you had to get a stamp, like a little stamp of happiness from every person in town by doing something good for them. So you would see their lives in this 3-day span, and you know where they go, you know what they do, and something bad kind of happens to almost all of them. So now it's like Quantum Leap, and you have to go in there and change what's bad about their life and make it better. And then you go back in time, and then it's horrible again because you don't interfere with it the second time around. But that one little tiny time period that no longer exists, you made their lives good. And there was one quest that was just huge and involved a bunch of 72-hour periods to complete.
So you're telling me the game would have been better with Scott Baio and Bill Murray?
Scott Bakula.
Scott Bakula.
Oh,
Scott Baio. But everything's better with Scott Baio, so I can't disagree.
No.
Are you kidding me?
It's true.
But anyway,
Charles in charge, son.
Would have been
also
better
had
with Scott
Tingle.
Bakula.
Scott Baio as Tingle. Majora's Mask, the movie. But yeah, I think what I liked about it is a lot of the things that were hidden. It wasn't just. I did complain about this on the forums, where back in the 8-bit days, you bomb a rock. There's a hole underneath. You go inside. You find an item. That's clever for 8-bit. That's like I am a smart person, and I'm putting puzzles into a horribly limited game, and this is about the best we can do. And back then it was cool. But then Zelda 64, you bomb a rock, you fall in the hole, you find that item. It's like, okay, you know what? I know it's like nostalgic. You're doing it to call back the original Zelda, but you can make better secrets in this. And that's what they did in Majora, because most of the items were gained from small quests from town, basically. So I kind of felt like that was an awesome direction for the series to take. And it kind of has a little bit. Like Wind Waker had a really nice town. Twilight Princess, I don't remember too much interaction with the townspeople, but maybe a little bit more than usual. And I think they've kind of gone that way a little bit, but I just really like Majora. So that's that.
Majora was definitely cool because it was different. I have never finished it, and I really want to go back to it one day.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I'm absolutely horrible.
Man, all you guys are giving me crap for liking Zelda 2, and you guys are, praising the different Zelda games. So,
Yeah, that's because these ones are diffy.
But these are good.
different
These are different good, not different like poop from my butt.
How is
Wow.
that different? What's different about that?
Yeah. Oh god. But yeah, it was just like it was neat having that whole time concept. The main thing that I remember about it was the big fucking moon. And just that look on its face as that thing comes down.
I know. It looked like the asteroid. Remember that asteroid in Star Fox? It always reminded me of that asteroid with the stupid face in Star Fox.
Yeah.
Fuck that thing.
Yeah. But, I love that moon. It was great. That was actually like my primary thing. I got the first song. I don't even remember if I ended up upgrading that song. Like I know they talked to me about it, and I had to rewind a couple times to dick around with some stuff, but it was just the sort of thing of I think I played it. Well, I got Ocarina when it first came out, and I got Majora's well after it came out, so I don't know exactly how long it had been, but it was so different from Ocarina that I really didn't like it at the time. But later on, I kind of came to appreciate a lot of what they were going for with that.
Well, I mean, I did the same thing. Like, I played it right after Ocarina when it first came out. Well, not really right after, but I wasn't too into it. It kind of sat there on the first 72 hours for years. I mean, after GameCube came out, I dug out my N64 and I played it on the N64 because I don't like pressing the Z button on the GameCube. And I actually completed it for the first time, and I loved every second of it. The second time through.
The N64 did not have the worst analog stick ever.
It kind of does.
That thing is huge, and I absolutely destroyed it with Sin and Punishment. But besides that, yeah, I don't know. Like I also kind of like the remix just because they're a little bit clearer. And I think I actually still have that like collector's Ocarina and Majora's Mask. So maybe one of these years I'll actually put my Wii to some use and play a GameCube game on it.
Oh, the disc that had the Master Quest too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I sold that for a lot of money. Suckers. And I didn't like Ocarina. You know what? I didn't even beat Ocarina, so there. I couldn't stand it.
And this is,
What is
this is a
happening? What are you gonna do
podcast of rebels, we're finding out.
It is.
Yeah.
Gaming rebels.
I'm hanging out
right
with Sleeve over here talking about stuff that makes no sense.
Just because my opinions are different from yours doesn't mean they don't make sense.
Right.
I was just trying to take some of the heat from you and your
Diversity
just
makes
radical idea.
Diversity makes us stronger. That's why we had a
Makes me
Pakistani
hate.
Ganon and
That's right. I'm trying to introduce
Love it. Pakistanin.
Pakistanis into the.
So speaking of differing opinions, I think the
Gaming
next game is
consciousness.
probably the most polarizing of all the Zelda games,
This is Wind
except for
Waker,
Zelda
right?
2, which is probably the most polarizing because only horrible people like it. But Wind Waker, it's like I think the real issue with Wind Waker is that Nintendo kind of promised a realistic Link with a little bit of a tech demo early on, and everybody got super excited for it. They were like, "Oh man, he looks so cool! It's adult Link." You know, nobody likes little kid Link. Everyone likes
surprise, you get
adult
Punky
Link.
Brewster.
And then you get this amazing looking cartoon Link. I mean, if you turn that game on right now, it'll be 480p on the Wii. You don't have to hold any buttons or anything, and it will look so good on your TV. There'll be a little bit of artifacting because, I mean, the hardware is just awful. But it'll look so good on your TV. Just the art style is so perfect. The little cloud of smoke when enemies die, like the way the sound changes while you're fighting them, you know, like dun dun dun, you know, like when you're doing your combo and stuff. I know they kind of had that in the newer games, but it's not the same. It's just, I like the combat. I like cutting things off, you know, like you cut the clothes off the dude, like the armor and stuff, and you hit them, and just I liked everything about that game except for the little bit of the Triforce. You have to kind of fish for it, and that's kind of annoying. Except for that. Everything else with the game, magnificent, just amazing game. I don't see why people don't like the way it looks, and I don't see why people don't like the way it plays.
I think it plays fine. I think there's too much. Sometimes you're sailing across the clouds a little too long, or sailing across from one place to the other.
The shortcuts aren't as useful as they could be.
Right. Other than that, I have no complaints about the game.
problems.
It is definitely one of the better Zeldas of all.
Of all time!
Of all Zeldas.
I remember I had a few of my friends were over when I was doing the part where you first get to town and you get a camera, and you have to do these little quests for people in town. And the camera guy asks you for all these weird pictures. Like there's two people like kind of like each other.
Why don't
and
you
have to
pose
catch
for
them in the
pictures,
moment.
little Link? Your hair looks mighty nice.
No. And there's like this one moment where you have to capture two people looking at each other who like each other but haven't really done anything about it or have a secret relationship. And so you have to kind of follow people around on their daily routines and find the exact moment to take a picture of. For some reason, everyone in the house was really into that. Like they were super excited about it, telling me who to look for and where to stand and what to do. I don't know why they were so into these horrible, stupid little quests, but it was great. It was just great. Like that game, I don't know. I really like that game.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about it at all. Besides the sailing.
And also the puppet Ganon wasn't that cool. I have to agree with Chris on that.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I actually did not mind the fetch quest. A lot of people bitched about that. That little Triforce quest at the end. But I think I don't know, it took me like, an hour? Just kind of going along and gathering up all the pieces.
Seriously, is there an RPG, any good RPG that doesn't have a lot of fetch quests? I mean, it's part and parcel. It's like saying that, you don't like dealing with stats when you're playing a sports game.
I don't know if I would call Zelda an RPG.
Well,
ever.
Yeah.
Maybe Zelda 2 comes the closest. It's action
it's more
adventure.
Just the issue that like you're going through all this action adventure, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you have to go fishing for a while, and it's just I don't know. It's kind of like this weird break to suddenly have in the game and have it be forced in order to finish it. Like normally, you kind of get the Triforce pieces as you complete the dungeons, and this one was just go fish for a while. It was just kind of a weird break, but it honestly didn't bug me that much. I know a lot of people seem to really hate it and like bitch about that, but
well, I think they
deal.
did a pretty good job of populating the ocean. I mean, it still gave you the feeling of being very sparse and empty, but it had a lot of little landmarks and towers with enemies on it, and small island enclosures that would have like a heart piece or something. It was actually fairly well populated for such a giant, vast environment. So I kind of really liked the sailing. I thought they did a very good job with it, and it's kind of impressive the way you can just run to the edge of an island, jump off onto your boat, and then just peace out. And there's no loading in between. There's nothing, and you see the island getting smaller and smaller, and you're just gone. There's something about that
Yeah.
that was very impressive at the time, I think.
I mean, it's still nice. I don't think I like the dungeons as much as some of the other games, but
I feel
overall,
like they didn't.
it was
Yeah,
just...
I mean, that's the one thing I do think it's. I think it only had about 4 major dungeons, and it was kind of short. I think it needed. I feel like they ran out of time, and then they just kind of crammed in the whole Triforce hunt to make up for the fact that there's an entire chunk of dungeon missing. Maybe I kind of feel that's true. I don't know if it's true or not. That's just how I felt playing the game.
I think it's the only Zelda that I can't specifically recall any of the dungeons from that I've played so far. Like, I haven't played Skyward Sword yet, but all the rest I can think of dungeons. When I think of Wind Waker, I think there was one part where you use a leaf to kind of, like, fly around, and that's all I
No,
got.
I think isn't that Twilight Princess with the air temple or whatever, where you're flying up on?
There is a leaf. You have like
There was a
the
leaf in
tree
Wind
gives
Waker?
you a leaf in Wind Waker.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's...
Because you can control
that's
the
all I
air.
got.
You can control
Like,
the air
'cause
with the wand.
the only
and you
reason I
float
think I
around.
even remember that is because Wait, was it that one where you could collect the little figurines?
Yes, that was the one, and that took for
Yeah.
freaking ever because you only can hold
Right,
3
like-
pictures on your goddamn camera or something.
Yeah,
close
like
to that.
I didn't collect them, but I remember trying to hunt one of them down while floating around. It's the only thing I got on dungeons in that game. I love the ocean. The ocean was great in that. I like the city. I mean, obviously the art style is amazing. The smoke was so fucking good.
Smoke.
Yeah, like when you
Sorry.
actually go under in that one. Actually, was that a temple? The underwater temple where you see like the past links,
Like old Hyrule
and stuff.
No, that wasn't even
Yeah.
a temple. I don't think that was just like a little event place.
Yeah, like that was really cool. That whole area.
That was really amazing. That's right at the end, though. And then you've been riding the King of Hyrule all along. What? Treating him like a chump. That was good. he's
Yeah,
the
King
boat.
of Hyrule.
So we're just spoilering every Zelda. He's the boat. The end. Tetra Zelda. It's over.
I think at this point, if you haven't played Wind Waker,
You're an asshole. Yeah, I
Right.
agree.
you should deserve to know that the king is a boat. Not that that is really a huge spoiler. Gonna
And you
ruin the
stab
game for you.
Ganon in the forehead with your sword. It's probably the most violent act in the history of Zelda titles. You're this cute little tiny Link with this cute little tiny Zelda fighting Ganon, and then you just jump in the air and stab him in the forehead with your sword, and he turns to stone. Job well done.
Well done, Link. Well done.
Well,
Yeah.
All right. So, from Wind Waker, we have your favorite, Mizo,
Werewolf's
Twilight
favorite.
Princess.
That's why we don't hear from Werewolf anymore, because Twilight Princess came out and it was a Zelda game and it had like fox and wolf stuff in it. He's done. I think he died from autoerotic asphyxiation while playing this game. And that's actually he has posted recently, I think, so he's not dead.
Yeah, he did.
That was in my TNL fan fiction. That's how it went down. There's nothing wrong with Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess
mean,
is a very well crafted game. It's a very well crafted. There's nothing wrong with it technically. It's kind of got the Ocarina thing for me, where, again, I love Twilight Princess. It's 90 something out of 100 for sure, easily. But it just didn't seem to have a reason to be. It just, we need another Zelda game. Wind Waker was fine, and then Skyward Sword is fine. They both seem to have something new to bring to the table.
Right.
But Twilight
Exactly.
Princess, when I was playing, it was almost like these are Link's greatest hits. This is all the stuff that we are really good at. We know how to do this stuff. This has dropped your jaws in the past. So here it is again. And it didn't help that it was kind of that between generations, caught between the GameCube and the Wii. But it just seemed
I
like
think it was just
it's a great first Zelda to play because it kind of introduces you to everything. It's almost a quintessential Zelda game, but if you played the series and you were hoping for something that took it a little bit further or that took it a little bit deeper, this wasn't it. It was just a very proficient and it was a very technically sound Zelda game.
do you feel like that? Do you feel like Twilight Princess came out as kind of an obligation for Nintendo to take
Yes.
the Zelda series to the perceived next level
I was there when they announced it, and the place went crazy, including me. We went crazy for the game. But it's really, I mean, if you have something like that up your sleeve and you're in a heated console war, you play that card. You know it was played because it's a smart thing to do. But from a gaming perspective, it is one of the Zeldas where, you know, if it had been skipped, I don't think I really would have missed anything except, you know, that experience while I was playing it. It was a lot of fun, but in the grand scheme of things, if we had just gone from Wind Waker to Skyward Sword, I probably would even enjoy Skyward Sword even more. So I don't think I would have lost anything in the grand scheme of things, and I would have gained like 70 hours back.
The world would have lost the Gaijin Forkoma picture of the guys, you know, like looking super bored in the Nintendo conference, and then getting all excited. And then, do you remember that thing where people would just stick pictures in between? The world would have missed out on that, and that's one of the funniest things ever. So I'm glad that the game was made in the end. But I have to agree that if you cut that out, then their game release schedule is almost perfect for console Zeldas. You know, just a major one when a new upgrade is required because of a new either technology advancement or control scheme or something similar. So that would have been perfect. And I also didn't like the fact that they held it ransom because it was ready for GameCube super early. And they just held it for almost a year, so it would come out with the Wii with just butchered controls, which I've mentioned before. I cannot stand that. I waited. I mean, I bought it first day. I played a little bit. The reason I gave was fake. I said that I played a little bit and I hated the controls and I stopped playing. That's not true. I actually liked the game enough that I kept playing until I got to about the snow palace, I think, the mansion, and I was actually enjoying it. And then my friend John came over.
Oh, where you have to push the ice blocks and stuff.
Yeah, and then my friend John came over and I had just gotten because Nintendo didn't even offer a freaking component cable when the system came out. I hate them so much. I had to order it from the internet from them, and it took forever to show up. And I have been playing this game looking like, with the component cable it looks bad. Without it, it looks like the muddiest garbage in the world. And I was still playing it because I was having fun. And I got to the Snow Temple, and I plugged in the cables, and I was like, let me see what the game looks like from the beginning without looking like garbage. And this is the only Zelda game that I can recall off the top of my head where you don't choose a save file at the beginning and then have that be the save file you save to at the end. You know, like in Zelda 3 or, Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time, you choose a save file up front and then you play your game and then you just hit the save button and it's saved to that slot. But in Twilight Princess, when you hit save, you have to pick where to save your game to. And I don't know why they would do that. And I overwrote my save. And I stared at it for a while. And because John and I were heading out to the arcade to play Street Fighter something or other, and I was really quick. Let's take a look. Let me show you the game. Okay, I'm going to save, and then I'm going to leave. I don't know why I would save from the beginning, but I did, and just overwrote my file, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with this game. It's over. And then when the GameCube version came out, I played through that, and I enjoyed it a great deal more because of camera controls. Better controls overall because a Wii control is horrible with the stupid button placement and no waggle.
Yeah.
So I loved the GameCube one. And they're bastards because they made it non-widescreen, you know, just because.
In the GameCube one.
In the GameCube one.
I fucking
hate
that.
They're like, fuck you guys. It's not widescreen on GameCube. Enjoy.
Yeah. Did I tell you about like my seizure experience with Twilight Princess?
I don't know. Maybe.
That I felt like it was... The way I would play Twilight Princess is, you know, because they only just mapped waggle, it doesn't actually matter what the hell you do.
Right.
I usually aimed the Wiimote at the screen, like just holding the controller in front of my crotch, and I would drape my left arm over the armrest where I had the, I can't remember what it's called, the dongle. And so
boy. It's getting
you
dirty.
shake the one in order to try and attack. So I'd be sitting there and like shaking my right hand really hard to attack, and then if I also wanted to try and get off a circular attack whenever I could, I'd be shaking the left one at the same time, and so I'm just sitting there shaking both of these controllers really hard in my hand, praying to God that no one walks in on me while I'm doing this.
It's more embarrassing than masturbation.
Is it more embarrassing than
always
playing Ode Medius Excellent?
Almost.
Yes.
It's less embarrassing than liking Zelda 2.
Ooh.
I do.
You know what?
Yeah.
I do like the Wii controller for the fact that you can hold it with your hands on either side of your body, you know? So you have the Wiimote on one hand and the analog stick and the other stuff on the other. And it does make it very comfortable. I do like having them spread out like that.
Wait,
That's kind
where
of
did
neat.
the seizure come in? Did I miss something?
It's just him shaking his hands.
Yeah, you just kind of have to imagine like someone sitting there like just shaking both their hands like really hard, and
Well, I had trouble with the controls for Twilight Princess. I couldn't do the shield bash reliably. I don't know if that's just me, but I could not do the shield bash reliably.
I think it was kind of shitty.
Yeah, and then once I got the GameCube version, I mean, everything was perfect. Everything was perfect. And I'm like, yes, this is how it should be.
You know what else fixes that? Using an emulator and mapping all the waggle back onto digital controls.
Of course, because that's all they did. I mean, they seriously put no thought into the motion controls. And this is back when Nintendo was still fooling people with the Wii. They were like, this is the motion you do for bowling. Watch the little tutorial. And you don't have to do that motion. That motion's for you to make you feel like the system's doing more than it's really doing. All you have to do is just, like tilt it forward a little bit, and it works. So it's not like a one-to-one relationship, which a lot of the older people and little kids that had the system imagined the system to be. And then when Wii Motion Plus came out, they were like, isn't that what it does? It's like, no, my friend. It used to do crap, and now it does it for real, and it's still not as good. So, anyway, I hate the Wii.
Yeah.
Anywho.
I mean, I really enjoyed Twilight Princess, but I definitely agree that it came out at a weird time. It really felt like it needed more time in the oven, basically. Like it was just shitty tacked on waggle controls, and it was like this odd time of transitioning hardware, but didn't really take advantage of either hardware. It was like, well, this doesn't really seem to belong on the GameCube, but it's not really good enough for the Wii.
Or hey Nintendo,
but I did like a lot of things they did.
Or hey Nintendo, why don't you not make a Zelda right now and come up with a new property? Make up a new mascot or a new
like
world.
Zelda Party.
No, not like that. No,
like
something
Pikmin.
new. Like
the last thing they did that was awesome. That was Pikmin, and it was great, and it came out of nowhere. Do that again. They can do it.
We need to
Nintendo.
take Miyamoto all over because he came up with Pikmin while eating soup or something, right? And he came up with Zelda while looking at a cave. And
take him to
there was Animal Crossing too. Yeah, that was kind of.
Oh, that was the strip.
Oh my God! Animal Crossing is the ultimate extension of releasing the same goddamn game over and over again. I mean, like exactly the same game and making people pay for it.
Angry.
I do get angry. I stop buying them. I enjoy them, but I stop buying them pretty quickly.
Fool me 6 times. Shame on me.
I have the GameCube one and the DS one, and that was enough. But wait, one more thing about Twilight Princess I wanted to bring up is I know that for the Game Boy Zeldas, at least Capcom and Nintendo had a very close relationship. They let them have the Zelda property after all. So I don't know how close they are or how involved the people who make games are with each other. But when did Okami come out and when did Twilight Princess come out? Because the beginning of Twilight Princess, like the first 3 mandatory things you have to do before the real game starts, it's like you're running around the world covered in twilight, and you have to find glowy little things to put on your glowy thing catcher that looks kind of like a grapevine. And when you finish doing that, then the place lights up and it's back to normal. And in Okami, you're running around looking for glowy things that you put in your glowy thing catcher, lighting up the world from darkness to light. I mean, and you're a wolf doing it. It's almost identical. How did that happen? And I'm pretty sure it was the same year they came out, or very close.
I think Okami came out in 2006.
Do you think that's a coincidence, or something must have happened? They're way too similar in that respect, in my book.
I don't know. I have no idea. I played Okami, but I never
coincidence.
played Twilight Princess, so I can't compare.
Shut up. Leave. Just
Like I
leave
said, I'm a Sega person, not a Nintendo person.
Can we get security in here?
This virtual room.
I don't know.
Have me hauled away.
I swear
Don't ruin the magic.
somebody
Come on.
swapped notes. Somebody did something. There's no way that 2 people independently thought of a wolf collecting things to bring a work from darkness to light. Or unless it's based on some kind of Japanese legend that I don't know about.
Like
the
enslaved
whole,
was.
Like the whole
I
Sengoku
mean,
thing, right?
I think it is, at least to some extent, but just that 2 major games following the same concept would come out fairly similar time frames.
Yeah, and they're both Zelda quote-unquote games, like very Zelda-ish games.
Yeah, like Okami is definitely a Zelda-inspired adventure game, but I don't know, for Nintendo to then do kind of the same thing,
it's kind of weird. And I mean, Capcom and Nintendo were good friends. They probably still are. You're getting Monster Hunter on the Wii, for God's sakes, and for no freaking good reason. So,
because the Wii is known for its online capabilities.
And for its hardcore crowd of people that can handle a game like Monster Hunter, nobody, your uncle and your aunt and your freaking grandma and little Billy does not want to play Monster Hunter. Let me tell you right now, because it's the worst game ever made.
So,
and it's
but in true
the
Monster
hardest
Hunter
game.
fashion, it comes bundled with a controller that works for the game.
Right.
Just
that is
like it
nice.
will for the 3DS. Because it's like, you know what? The console we're releasing this for doesn't actually work with our game.
Exactly.
We have to give you a controller that will support it.
And you know what I hate about extra controllers for the Wii? You have to plug them into your stupid Wiimote. You have no idea how crazy that makes me. I think that's the most inelegant, ugliest freaking setup you can have for controllers.
Tape them together.
It's so... I don't know why. I think it's so stupid. It just drives me insane to have to do that.
It is pretty dumb.
Well, you got to remember, back in the day, there was like the GameCube 5 or whatever that Capcom was doing for Nintendo. And that was like, what, Resident Evil 0?
Piano 3?
Piano 3.
Piano
Killer
3.
7.
we've
let's talk
started
about
to
that.
talk about the Nintendo, the Megaton, and
love
the
Piano
GameCube
3.
5. I think that means we've probably exhausted our discussion of Zelda, except for the new game, which
we'll talk about
we've
when
just
we're
got,
talking
Which
about.
segues
Which I
into
know
the
some
now
of us have
playing
played,
section.
but
Yeah.
I think we're
And all
ready
of
to
us
talk
should
about
play.
what we've been playing. Are we ready to move on to that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Why don't we start with the people that have been playing Zelda? Let's turn it around here, and,
All right.
and then we can we can get a smooth transition.
Okay.
Mizu, I know, has been playing it,
Yep.
and does this Zelda have a reason to exist? Are you glad this was made? Does it seem like a cash grab or a strategic thing, or did they just say, we have some ideas for a good game, let's make it?
If this game had come out instead of Twilight Princess, maybe even a year after Twilight Princess came out. Like if there was no Twilight Princess, this game came out maybe a year after the Wii first came on the scene, then it would be perfect. I think.
I totally
like a perfect
agree.
showcase of the system, a perfect showcase of what the game should be like and will be like in the future. But what we're getting is this is probably the best game the system has had at the complete ass end of its life. Like I don't even think Nintendo will make another Wii game at this point. And it's a little bizarre that they've waited this long for a game this good on the Wii. You think that they would be at the forefront. Let me show you how to make a Wii game so that you can copy it and also make good games. And I'm a little disappointed, but it is a very good game. It's a lot of fun to play. And the only drawbacks are all technical aspects of being on such ancient hardware. And you almost can't fault it for that, but I will definitely fault it for that.
Oh, you definitely
I say
can.
that it looks like garbage, and I hate it. But it is a very, very good game that is a lot of fun to play. I love the way it uses the Wiimote. I like the motion controls. I actually like it. I like it so much. It's weird. I really
Well, it
do.
seems like your take is a lot more positive than it was the last time. So
I put a little bit more time into it. I mean, it's just
Warmed
a very
up a
good
little
game.
Yeah, you
Very
are
well
skeptical
made.
when you first start.
You were
You're
very
skeptical.
critical. Yes, I remember.
Well, I don't think I like the overworld design that they're taking with a little bit of a puzzle element to almost every area, because it makes the overworld feel a little bit less natural and flowing and a bit more constructed. Like every single room is built a certain way, and I mean, obviously it's a video game, but you know what I mean? Just
It's very segmented. You don't get this feeling of this, even though when you first start up in the clouds, you're in these little areas, and then you learn that there's this whole surface beneath. But when you access the surface, you can only access little puzzle pieces of the surface. You can access one desert, or one little desert and one little jungle area, and one little whatever the other area is. You can you can only go to them if you go back up to the sky. If you want to go from one area to the other, you have to go back up to the sky and then go over to a certain geographical point in the cloudscape, and then go down to Earth from there. It's kind of a weird thing, but it works within the context of the game, and they explain why you have to do it that way.
But it kind of feels like the sky is the real overworld, and it's incredibly sparse. There's maybe 3 things to do there, and I kind of wish they had added a few more islands with just random secrets or random things on them. I mean, why not? And then it feels like going down to the surface is almost going to a dungeon in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like I keep thinking, okay, this is the dungeon, and then it's not.
It's meant to be like that.
Okay, now I'm in a dungeon, but I'm not.
I think it is meant to be like that. You do have a dungeon feel, and then there are dungeons within the dungeon. So it is kind of new. I kind of don't like the all the bats in this area are electric, and then all the jellies are electric, and then you go over here and all the bats have fire powers. If they don't really need to stick to that such a literal thing. They could. I think they got a little lazy with that. But it doesn't have all the old Zelda villains like I was talking about with Ocarina. But of course, how creative is it to have bats as enemies, and it's
bats
jellies.
are Zelda enemies. What are they called? Skeevies? I don't remember.
Keys.
Bats, I believe, are our natural enemies as human beings.
No, we need to leave them alone.
Can't stop
man.
here. This is backcountry.
We need to leave them alone. Let Mother Nature take care of them. Anyway, I'm really having fun with this game. I like the look of it. I like the feel of it. It's just a bright, open world full of possibilities. It does get kind of bottlenecked when you're going down to the surface. It does make it feel narrow because you have to go through this little hole in the clouds in each case. So it does make it feel like it's kind of compressed when it doesn't need to be. But there's a lot of things to keep you busy. I don't know how many worlds there are. I'm only on the third one. So I don't know if there's like an ice world or something after it. But if they could get a little far away from the cliches in the next time and just try to do something just that feels more organic and I hate to use this word with Zelda, but more real, more realistic in a way. I think that's the next thing they could do. I don't want it to be realistic as far as, Link looks like he's digitized or something. But I do want it to feel like a real world.
Nick, did you get to play the Wii U tech demo?
No.
For the new Zelda?
Unfortunately,
the new Zelda little thing?
I pretty much had a choice, the Vita or the Wii U, and I went with the Vita.
Oh, it's over. Yeah, of course. But, I don't know if that's going to be the future of Zelda, because they've already done the old switcheroo with Wind Waker in the past. But I've heard the technical demo looks pretty gorgeous.
I trust Nintendo.
So I'm a little excited
I trust that the next Zelda is going to be spectacular. They all are at least very, very good.
Yeah.
But this one,
I don't think you can
really,
doubt.
I really like
Right.
this.
I don't think you can doubt
that.
Sorry. You go.
And I kind of don't like the bowling aspect with the bombs, but I mean it fits in. It's something new to do, and sometimes I feel like I'm just being lazy with my arm, and sometimes you do have to slice enemies a certain way to kill them, which I think is a really good thing. Really brings me to the game. But yeah, like you said last week, I'm just laying back on the couch, and I don't particularly feel like leaning forward so I can get a nice arc or a nice accuracy to the angle I'm attacking at. But that's just me being lazy. That has nothing to do with the game design. A couple things I was disappointed in. The manual, why... I know we shouldn't talk about this, but why do we even have a manual? The manual has nothing in it. Absolutely nothing. All the tutorials are in the game. I mean, back with the original Legend of Zelda, I remember there was a little bestiary or whatever they're called. They're like little drawings and descriptions
had a little
of each
write-up
monster.
of every single
that
enemy.
is cool.
Yeah, that was great.
And it wouldn't take that long to do. I could write up descriptions in one evening, and I'm sure people that are talented with drawing could draw pictures like that in 1 or 2 evenings.
Is there an online manual? I know a lot of games are doing this now, especially on the 3DS.
No.
Every game has an online manual that you can even access from the 3DS.
You don't even have to do new drawings for the manual. You just take the concept art from the game that you have been developing for the past 5 years, and you stick it in there. That's not that tough.
And I kind of don't. Some of the other things I noticed. There's a toilet in Zelda now, and we found out that Link pees while sitting down. We found that out about Link. There's a toilet in the very first academy where you start. And then there's this item check girl.
There's a toilet in Majora.
There's this item check girl that I wanted to ask you guys that have played this. There's an item check girl in the bazaar, and it seems to me that she's making kind of like little sexual innuendos, and I refuse to believe that there's something like that in Zelda, but she starts saying stuff like that you think, okay, this is just me being dirty, like, is there anything you want me to hold? Do you want to leave anything with me? But then she starts saying things.
What?
Yeah.
That's not dirty.
And she starts saying things like, is there something in your pouch today that you want to deposit, or something you want me to pick up, or something you want to pick up? And I really think that they're trying to get a little bit of adult humor in it, or am I just
I think it's you.
just a pervert, aren't I? It's
Yeah.
too much time with the Zelda 2 uncle guy with the porn mustache. But yeah, I don't want Zelda real like that. And then when at one point when you toward the beginning of the game when you win that big contest and you get to go up on the mountain with Zelda or go up to the goddess statue and do the ritual.
Yeah, that was cute.
There's a point somewhere in there where you're on a bird and she jumps on the bird with you. And she just has, when she looks up at you, she has such crazy psycho girlfriend eyes. I mean,
yes.
Didn't you get creeped out by that? It's like every girlfriend that wouldn't let go.
It was perfect.
Link's having some
Link,
flashbacks now.
Link, you're the world to me. And oh my god, I gotta stop playing for a while. But other than that, I mean, this is definitely one of the best Zelda games I've ever played, and that's high
she fucking
praise.
loves shoving you off places. That's her fucking hobby, knocking you off high places.
Yes. And Link's hobby is depositing things from his pouch into.
I don't know. You know what? I haven't talked to the item check girl lately, but I'll
talk
give
to her
it a
every
shot.
chance I get.
I think it's
you can go to her house at night. It's great.
Oh, what was up with that? I mean, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but this is very early on in the game. You're getting led by Fi to go do whatever it is you're going to do. And that stupid... I don't know if it's the same one. Maybe there's a bunch of these meerkats around. But why does it have, like, this horrible face and yell at you, and it makes this whole scary scene, and then it attacks you?
You don't know this?
And then you hit it, and it cowers away?
Okay, listen carefully. This is an important part of the game. The world, the sky world, is different from night to day in a way that our world isn't. It really at night everybody tends to stay in their homes because even the little furry cats they start to turn evil, and you walk down the streets where it's totally safe during the day. You have things attacking you almost like in a dungeon at night, and supposedly monsters come out of caves, they say, and I guess they just mean the bats and things flying around. But even the little cats, one of the instructors that's watching Zelda's cat tells you if you go in there at night, the cat's not in there, and he's got a little cat gym and everything in there, but the cat's not in there. And he says, I keep my distance from Mia at night because she came in through the gates once at night and she caused a commotion. It's just this whole thing that happens at night. Where night is a really dark place over there. So pay attention.
Huh.
All right.
Well, how far are you? I'm like 25, 26 hours in it.
I still haven't put that much time into it.
I'm still on the original charge of the batteries that came with the Wiimote. They keep the sword spirit you have, or whatever her name is. She keeps interrupting me to tell me Link, your Wii remote is about to die. The battery's about to die. Like she'll keep flashing that icon, and she'll keep making that alarm sound until you answer her. And when you answer her, she says, "Yeah, your battery's about to die," as if the giant red flashing battery in the corner of the screen wasn't enough of an indication.
That's a very Nintendo thing.
Yeah.
Galaxy did the same thing.
Yeah.
Pretty annoying.
So that's that. I haven't played anything else this week, by the way, so I don't know if you have.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm sure all of you are spending Thanksgiving week with your families, so hopefully you have been spending the entire time playing video games.
Yeah, with Zelda and her dad and the instructors and
your
Hibbit or whatever
birds
his name
have
is.
no name.
Yes.
They're such an integral, like you bond with them from the beginning, and you love them so much. I love that scene at the beginning when Link is looking up and Zelda's talking about his bird, and the King of Hyrule is like, "Oh, they had this amazing connection. Even you were jealous."
Yeah.
And it shows Link looking up, and he has this huge smile on his face. He's like, "Man, I love my bird." Like that's I don't know.
Do you think Avatar
I thought it was
somehow
really
influenced
funny
this
at the
game?
beginning. Yeah, you know what? Somebody brought that up, and I didn't even think about it, but I think it's a little true. The whole, I think it's like Hogwarts mixed with Avatar. You have like the school in the sky where they play Quidditch, or at least they try to capture a snitch, and you're riding on birds that you have incredible bonds with, like the animals in Avatar. I don't know if Miyamoto went to the movies this past year and got inspiration.
Maybe if Link had a
from everything
ponytail that kind of that he has to attach
that
to
hooked
the
into the bird.
Yeah, then maybe.
He doesn't use his ponytail. Let's put it that way.
Oh God. Anyway, Miza, have you played anything else besides?
Yeah, I actually
Well, tell
put
us
a little
about
bit
it.
of time. Okay, I put some time into Uncharted 2 finally, so I got to turn that on and play it a little bit. And I was expecting to be. I had heard so much hype about the opening scene and how incredible it is that I think it went. My expectations were way too high, because while it is very exciting and cool, it wasn't as action packed as I expected it to be. It's kind of a slow climb up a train that is hanging off a cliff, while his guts are pouring out of his stomach, which I don't really understand how he pulled off. And then there's like the one thing of you running and jumping, and that's kind of action-oriented. I expected the whole thing to be like the end of Full Throttle, where it's just action, 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 crazy action, you know? And it kind of wasn't. But it was still very well done, and I am really enjoying the game. It's I really like the beginning because he objects to killing people, and I'm like, really? Come on, Drake.
Sure.
You kill people every day.
Killing my first guy was a big step for me. I can understand where he's coming from.
I guess the guards were kind of innocent, but then you get to a part where there's one patrolling the roof, and you throw him off the roof, and he falls down like thousands of feet into some ocean.
Into feathers, a pile of feathers.
No, and then this is the funny part. It's like he's like a dot in the distance, but you can see him land and then swim away. Like, I'm okay, guys. I'm
That's
alive.
what movies used to be in the 80s.
It's like the A-Team.
You know what? That reminded me. I was about to say that reminded me of this one scene that I can't get out of my head when I used to watch the A-Team. When I was little, I used to watch the A-Team all the time. And then as an adult, I found it on Netflix, and of course I had to watch it again. And the show is cartoon character awful levels of writing and just zaniness. And I think the best part is that they never kill anybody. In a show about guns and machine guns and tanks that shoot 2x4s and Mr. T, nobody dies on screen.
It's even worse because that's a TV show on Channel 5 or on NBC back in the 80s. But even the action movies, a lot of them in the 80s, the hero would take a bazooka.
Not like Commando.
He would hit the tank head on with a bazooka blast, and then he would keep going. And it was so important that the camera had to cut back and show the soldiers scurrying out of the empty husk of the tank. Nobody was killed. The evil Russians weren't killed. Guys.
See, that leads right to my point for the A-Team, because the one scene I'm talking about is Hannibal and the rest of the gang are escaping Las Vegas in I don't remember if it was a limo or some kind of fancy car. It may have been a limo. And the limo is just loaded with weapons. And Hannibal comes out of the top window and shoots at his pursuers in another car. I don't remember. I think it might have just been a machine gun or something special. But he shoots the crap out of the car. The car goes off the road and then just ramps off, flips over in the air and lands on its top. And the car is crushed beyond all recognition. Nobody inside could have survived. But they take the time to pan the camera over to the car.
I love it. And
they have the actors doing, like, I don't know what it's called, but they do the voiceover, like, a week after the production has ended. And they're like, "Are you okay, Bill?" "Yeah, I'm all right." And it's like, what? Where did that come from?
We've learned the error of our ways, and we'll become.
It's been years since I've seen the A-Team, but I remember that. I distinctly remember that.
You're like, those guys are
dies.
dead. Those guys have no heads. They are dead. It's over. And then it's like, "Are you okay, Bill?" "Yeah, I'm all right." Really. So that's what this was like, because Drake kills people all the time.
Did you finish Uncharted 3?
No, I've never played it. I'm playing 2,
I thought you
dude.
played 3, because when I was talking about the punching tutorial at the beginning, you seemed to be familiar with that.
Oh, I've seen it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I watched it, but I didn't really do it.
I did. I was talking about
it was you? Okay, so, I mean, is Uncharted 2 just better all the way through? Because I'm starting to get the feeling with Uncharted 3 that it's a great game. Like Ocarina of Time, where there's just something that's not making it click where it should be clicking.
I still haven't gone back to it since then, but I do know that the patch came out, I think, today to fix the aiming.
It's out.
So there's that.
Okay. Well, I don't know if
Well,
that'll
2 feels like 1. A lot of people said 2 stepped it up. 2 feels just like 1 to me. I don't see a big difference.
Wait,
I mean, I loved 1, but it seems to be about the same.
How far into it are you?
I'm in the cave with my Inuit friend Jorge. I call him Jorge. He doesn't have a name.
No, we're talking about the
in
game. How far are you into the
language.
game?
Yeah. So it's like this weird ice cave. I just saw that unkillable monster for the first time, and I just like how ridiculous the climbing is in this game. Like in Persia, it's kind of ridiculous, but it has nothing on Uncharted. Uncharted has the most unrealistic
really
climbing
ridiculous.
of any game, and he's the master of leaving a platform right before it crumbles.
Yeah.
You know, like the second before it crumbles, he just left it, no matter how long you sit there and wait. And everything is, I mean, it's very well done.
It always reminds me of Dragon's Lair when in the one part where you're going down this tube on a platform and it stops at at 3 different levels and you can jump off at any one. And then he jumps off and the bridge crumbles beneath him and he gets off just in time. And that's the entire game of Uncharted. That happens over and over and over again. So what thrilled me back then is just like, this happens every 4 seconds in this game.
And he falls down a lot. He gets hurt Drake is not enjoying.
He's got an adamantium skeleton, I think.
He's amazing. I don't know how he's still alive.
Well, one of the main things that really struck me about the improvement in Uncharted 2 is that it definitely plays almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
But one thing is that you're constantly moving through new areas, and it's like you encounter a group of guards, and you will fight off like 4 or 5 people and keep moving on. And the first game used to lock you into a room for a long period of
then
time.
It was just a shooting gallery for
waves,
a while.
Yeah.
and
And you have to just
waves
memorize
and
where they're
waves.
coming from to be able to take them out, or else they come up behind you and then you're screwed. Yeah.
Right, like it basically just turned into a glorified light gun game for like 10 minutes, and then you would move to the next room, and then, it would happen again. You'd get locked. Oh, and there's a jeep in front of you and rocks, and even though you're outside, you're still somehow locked in a room fighting waves of enemies, and then you move to the next section. I hated that. Uncharted 2 just has much better pacing, and it flows a lot nicer.
I was a little surprised at the beginning when Drake just kind of accepts casually to go rob something for somebody else. I didn't have that part of Drake in my subconscious, in my image of him, let's say, from playing the first game. Like, I knew he was kind of a treasure hunter, and he goes out of the way to discover things. Like, kind of this is kind of Indiana Jones 1 to Indiana Jones 2 type of thing. Where in part 1, it's like he's an archaeologist first, everything belongs in the museum or whatever. Also in part 3. More famously in part 3. And then in part 2, it's kind of like, I found this mummy, I'm going to trade it with this gangster for money, and we're going to do, me and Short Round are doing everything for fortune and fame, which kind of was like a, you know what I mean? It was kind of like a turnaround for Indiana Jones. That's how I felt when I turned on Uncharted 2, because he was just like there's one dude shows up, and he's like, hey, you want to rob some shit? He's like, yeah, hell yeah. Let's do it. I'm Drake. That's what I do. I'm like, really? That's what Drake does? Because he gets away with a lot of illegal crap in the first game, like mass murder and also like just taking things. But I mean, he's taking things from the ocean, from like it's another government.
Is it a prequel, kind of like
heroes?
It was just weird. I just thought it was weird. I thought it came out of nowhere. That he is this dirty, filthy thief.
First, you learned that Eric Monch didn't beat Zelda 2, and then you learned that Drake is not as moral, and Indiana Jones not as moral. And I'm so sorry.
Oh, and I did beat Zelda 2, by the way, Nick. It was the second quest.
I'm sorry,
the
second quest.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what
it's more impressive.
That's what I consider
Zelda
to be
2.
Zelda 2, because I block out the actual Zelda 2 link.
Zelda 2 is a lot harder than Zelda 1, even the second quest of Zelda 1. I would say
so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you just want bragging rights.
Right.
So Uncharted 2, so far it's very, very good. I guess I just got to the part where there's monsters instead of people now, so I'll see how it goes from here on out. But really enjoying it. I'm just getting ready to play part 3 eventually, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Eric, I understand your Dark Souls epic is continuing.
Yes. Yeah, there were a couple days.
What trouble have you gotten into this week?
Yeah, Thanksgiving has been an abbreviated gaming week for me because of the Thanksgiving holiday. But still been playing Dark Souls. I'm to the point where a lot of people got really frustrated and furious with the game. I'm in a place called Blight Town, which is filled with just by the name Blight Town, it's pretty obvious that it's a shitty place to be. But it's filled with poison swamps and people who shoot toxic blow darts at you, and there's all sorts of rickety platforms. The place is not well lit. People can knock you off very easily. But I just want to.
Do they crumble as soon as you jump?
Yeah,
off them?
in parts they do, and it's pretty freaky. But I've actually, I'm going through it slowly, and I haven't found it quite as bad as a lot of people do. I think what I really appreciate about it, and every aspect of the game seems that way, is that the more I play it, I just think to myself, why can't every RPG be like this? Like, why can't every RPG, like especially with Skyrim, eventually I'm going to play that. In some ways I'm not looking forward to it after spending so much time with Dark Souls, but like the combat system, it's got stats, it's got like vitality and endurance and strength and dexterity and all those things. As you level up, you can, put points in those stats, but like all of those numbers translate to the gameplay. Like even in parts where frustrating things happen to you, like everything works on those rules. Like everything has numbers. Like your stamina bar, depending on the points that you put in endurance, your stamina bar gets longer. And the enemies that attack you, all of their attacks and all of their defenses work on the same basic principles as your character. So like if you want to breaks.
This all sounds like Skyrim.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, to some extent, I mean, Skyrim is like that. But I mean, I've played Bethesda games before, and just like the focus on first-person combat, and the fluidity with the controls just isn't really it isn't really there for me. I just don't have the same experience with the combat as Skyrim. I
think people agree
aside
with the
from
combat in
being
Skyrim.
unable to roll,
Just not that
yeah,
fun.
they made a lot of advancements with the third-person camera in Skyrim. It no longer feels like a user hack mod.
Yeah, well, that's good. I guess
Like it
I'll
did
look forward to
Oblivion.
seeing how that translates. But just like being able to see and control everything that's going on around you, and knowing that everything works on very well-defined rules, and the computer's not cheating when it sends out a bunch of enemies at you. I mean, if you figure things out properly, and you've got the right. You make the right decisions, you can get through it. I mean, if you don't prepare adequately, you'll die, obviously, and you do die quite frequently. But it does make sense. If you reach a point where your guard keeps getting broken, you either have to dodge, or you have to use a different shield that will give you more stamina, or you need to put more points into stamina so your guard doesn't get broken, or you just have to try a different strategy. And also a funny thing that about Dark Souls is the online system is kind of weird. Like, you can't just, if you have a friend you want to play with, you can't just contact that person and say, hey, let's co-op Dark Souls. You just can't do that. And I won't get into detail on that. It's been written about elsewhere. But like, I wonder how much of that is a conscious decision. Like, we want to design this game this way so that you're sort of alone in the world, and if you want to co-op with someone, you have to put down a sign, or you just have to call some random person that you find available.
Yeah.
Or whether that was purposely designed that way because of the PS3's shitty online, because of course, like, Demon Souls is the predecessor of this game, and it had that same sort of principle where you can randomly summon people to help you, and that same kind of weird premise sort of carries into Dark Souls, where you can't just find someone on your friends list and summon them into your game. Like, you can't, if you join a covenant, you can't join a covenant with your friends and summon them when you want to. You sort of have to lay down your sign or have your friend. And of course, you can't contact them within the game. You can't just send them a message to do this. You have to somehow, ensure, like, through other means, by like calling them on the telephone, like telling, like, hey, let's play.
Well, you're not
Yeah,
supposed to
it's
be
almost
playing with
like-
your friends.
No,
That's part
see,
of it.
that's-
It's almost like the old.
That's the thing that shows it's a very conscious decision, was because you can do that in Demon Souls. You can lay down spots in specific areas and tell your friend. But in Dark Souls, they changed it so that when you join, you're connected to a random server. You can't connect to the same server necessarily that your friends are connected to. Like, they specifically implemented like unseeable or invisible roadblocks in the path of being able to connect to other people that they added on from Demon Souls.
Okay, so you're saying that this is a design choice that was made to, because I never played Demon Souls.
That was
like,
very
I don't,
specifically implemented.
so that people
yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah,
Like
well,
in Demon Souls, everyone connects to the same server, so you can place a marker in a very specific area and tell your friend, hey, go here and connect to my game, and they can go there and find your sign and connect to your game. In Dark Souls, they make it so that, like I was saying, when you connect online, you connect to a random server. So when you get online and put a spot there, your friend could connect and randomly get put on a completely different server, and they're not going to see your sign. They cannot connect to your game, no matter where they go.
It's
or
like
what
even
they
if your
do.
friend is like in the same like town as you, or like in the house like across the way, that like basic proximity isn't going to ensure even if you're playing the game at the same time, you lay the sign down. There's no way they can see it.
Yeah, like I don't know how they decide what server it is that you join, but they put those roadblocks in. They added them in from Demon Souls.
But I don't know. Like, I guess, like, it's interesting the way it's done. Like, I wonder how much better or the online component could have been. I mean, there are all these covenants in the game that you can join, and they all give you different. A lot of them are basically based upon multiplayer. There's covenants based on helping people. There's covenants based on invading other people's games and killing them. You can choose which ones you want to join. But like, I wonder how much better it could have been if there was just at least some basic way in which you could contact someone you were associated with. Because in a way, there's kind of a mechanism that does this. I mean, if there's a covenant that has you attacking people who have invaded other people's games, like there's a book of the guilty that you can open up that will sort of show who these people are, and then you can go and kill them. But like, if there was some kind of basic way, that there was some kind of book that you could at least see who else was in your covenant and then join them based on that, would that have taken that much out of the experience? I don't really think so, but it would have made online just that easier to accomplish. And the online seems to be pretty busy now. I've been able to summon people into my game, and I've been able to and I've been invaded by other people, pretty regularly. But like, I don't know. It seemed to me that a lot of that had to do with like deriving from the PS3's crappy online system. But maybe I'm completely wrong about that. Maybe it was a conscious design choice.
Does you have a guild that you can?
Or something. Just some kind of
call other people in. Like in Monster
Hunter.
Yeah, I
mean, there is a covenant that you can join that'll sort of.
Yeah, I only mentioned Athena once.
Yeah.
Keep it
There's
fair.
covenants you can join that make it like more likely that you'll join people of that particular covenant, but it's nothing specific. You can't pick out particular people to join, and I think it could have been better if they changed that one aspect of it. But having said all of that, I think the game's amazing. It's great. It's probably my favorite game of the year. It's the only game that I've put like 50, 60 hours into already this year. So
Nice.
yeah, I mean, I think that for me that is the measure of a good game. If I've spent more than 40 hours playing it, certainly that makes a good game. And I'm compelled to play the new game plus too. Like at some point, I'm just looking forward to that, like going through the game again. So at some point I'll get to Skyrim, but I've got to finish Dark Souls first. So that's what I've been playing.
Oh, great update.
Yeah,
thanks.
Oh, one thing I want to mention that I just found out about recently is that this has nothing to do with anything except for Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter Try on
Monster
Hunter Try on the
update.
Wii. But let me just say, Monster Hunter Try on the Wii has its own like network connection. So you actually don't need friend codes or anything. You log onto the Capcom servers at the guild hall, and you see other people who are also playing Monster Hunter, and you can play with them. So it somehow bypasses all of the dumb Wii crap to let you play a game online like you're supposed to, and it uses the Animal Crossing microphone to let you talk to each other. So it breaks all of the known Wii conventions of being horrible. If you guys want to buy that game and play it with me, I think that would be amazing. And we should do that sometime.
So it's trying to sucker everyone into it.
Anyway,
Oh,
that's
God.
A member of the
Monster Hunter
Monster
Try.
Hunter affiliate program, the more people you can get in.
I just want people to share in my misery.
Yeah, when you buy the game, there's actually a "Were you referred by anyone?" It's a 12-step help list. All right,
So yeah,
Chuck's
who's next?
Yeah, so this week, that's the last time I'll mention it. I played Metal Gear Solid 3, and I got to the crab battle part. I laughed really hard,
Crab
and yeah, exactly. It was fantastic. I don't remember there being so many crabs. I could see why you would be so terrified.
Doctor, I don't remember there being so many crabs.
Oh, there's
What the
Josh
hell?
will have fun with that. He'll cut that out. So I played that for a little bit. Decided to do the Endless Setlist 3 in Rock Band 3.
Oh my god. Have you done them previously, Chucks? Because I did the first one with John, and it was,
I did the
and the
first
second
two.
one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did the first two. Not a lot of good songs in Rock Band 3. I'm remembering. But the good ones are spread out every, I don't know, 10 to 15 songs. So you'll play a few and you'll get really tired of it, and then a good song will come on. You'll be like, oh, all right, you get pumped up, and then
I have a
by the ninth song,
Well, has
you're
that shit
like,
died
"Ugh."
off?
I have a question.
Is that done
are,
now?
Are the songs that you purchase from one Rock Band game to another, do those carry over?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The main disc for Rock Band 1 was able to be carried over to Rock Band 2. Then the disc from 2 was able to go to 3.
Yeah, because
And Lego and Green Day were able to go
Oh
into
my
3
God.
also.
I just have the original Rock Band. Like I never picked up the sequels. I bought a couple.
I think 2 was good enough.
Yeah.
2 was good enough to deserve a purchase, I think. By 3, I already didn't care, and I'm surprised. Do you think these games are still... Like, is it going to be a Rock Band 4?
Well, no, I think
done,
that
right?
moment,
It's over?
like 3-4 years ago, was huge. I remember everybody was playing Rock Band. Even people who didn't like video games were in a Rock Band. People were having Rock Band
Mhm.
parties. Bars were having like Rock Band nights. And now it's completely disappeared. Like nobody plays it anymore.
Yeah,
It's
and
amazing.
That's what it
Like-
was. We would have Rock Band 2 parties, at my
Mhm.
apartment when we were doing it. And we played it at PAX also, didn't we?
Yeah.
Pretty much we blew up the hotel room with people
Dave's
singing
busted
bad
ass
covers of
drums.
Journey and yeah. And then when we bought my house, Rock Band 3 had just came out, and I remember I had a lot of people come around for that. Rambo drove down from Philly to hang out, and it was good times. But nobody really does it anymore, and it's not because it's bad. It's fun getting together with everybody and playing the game all in the same room. I mean, I know we live in an age where Xbox Live makes it super simple for everybody to do it,
Mhm.
right in the same place. But, you don't want to sit there, grab a few beers, play Xbox Live, and be like, oh, bro, I'm totally singing the shit out of the song, dude, That's something you want to do in your living room, not over the internet. But yeah, I think that ship has definitely.
It's too bad. I
sailed
mean, I
for the time
really
being.
enjoyed it. I mean, I bought the Pixies album. I remember for the original Rock Band at like I think I think they had the entire Doolittle album for download. Yeah,
Yeah,
which
Doolittle's
was
on there.
awesome. I thought that was great. So I had a lot of fun with it. It's just funny how that cultural moment has just completely passed and no one buys those
Well,
games
I mean,
anymore.
I think part of the problem is that you don't need a new game released
No,
every
you
other
don't.
year. You just need to update the engine through patches, if
I-
that, and then just
they
add
should've-
more songs. And I mean, it
Yeah.
was a whole, yeah.
Well, and let's be honest, Rock Band, aside from the missteps of Lego and Green Day, they haven't had nearly as many as Guitar Hero did.
No.
It was saturation, basically. I think that completely
I
killed the
th-
market.
I think
it
that's
made
exactly
everybody
right,
just
yeah.
not give even
If
the
they had
tiniest
just
fuck.
added more and more albums, downloadable albums, I think people would have been down with it. But
Well, and they did. I mean, they
Yeah.
still do. And Rock Band Network is huge right now because Rock Band
Yeah.
Network is letting a lot of indie people get in there. And I have some stuff like from Anamanaguchi and
Nice.
like there's some Super Meat Boy songs are on there too.
oh wow,
it's the
that's
craziest
great.
shit
I
in
mean,
the world.
I
had
found
fun
out
with
about
that
a lot of
stuff.
bands through
Yeah.
through Rock Band. I learned about the band Freeze Pop through Rock Band, and I just saw I saw one of their shows last night here in Tucson. So yeah.
Oh, no
yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw them. I saw them at PAX, and then I stalked them. And the next weekend, they were in my hometown. So then I saw them. They're like, "Hey, we just saw you in Boston," and I was like, "I gotta get out of here."
And what we also complain about all the time, or I complain about all the time, is I'm sure the Harmonix people are all very nice people who are very talented at making games, but you need to get your little bands the fuck out of Rock Band, because I don't want to play your
Yeah.
songs ever. I'm
they
sorry.
they are the worst.
I'm
What-
sorry.
oh, you
You're
mean the-
bad at
Freeze
that.
Pop is an
Well, yeah,
exception, though.
I think that they
Definitely.
were friends of Harmonix. I think that's how they got into the thing in the first place.
No, one of the main dudes. I forget. They all have goofy names. The Duke. He worked for
Ah,
Harmonix.
okay.
He was the Duke of
Oh,
Panacoken.
yeah, right.
But
Yeah,
he's
I
not
think
in the
he's
band
gone.
anymore. So yeah, like everybody's saying, they didn't really burn out so much as people just don't get around together to do it. I mean, in people my age, most of us have kids or got married. It's not as easy to just drop everything, drink, and hang out.
Yeah, maybe
Now I
it's
gotta
just
wake up and change diapers and
the
give
demographic
bottles.
that it appealed to is just not that into buying yearly updates of games.
Nobody should be into buying.
Yeah.
Well,
yearly updates
no,
of games.
that's not exactly it, because you got to look at sales of Madden and Call of Duty. I don't think it's that. I just think that it's a very particular group of people who were buying it, who don't fall into those kind of tropes.
that's true.
Like the people who are going to
Maybe
buy
a
those
more
Rock
But
Band
I would
games-
argue,
audience.
I would argue even
Exactly,
with like Modern Warfare,
exactly.
the Modern Warfare games, I think mostly the people that are buying those are younger. Like I know some. I mean, I play it and I'm older. I'm compared to other people, I guess.
You played it while you were in
But
college, didn't you?
yeah, I think most of the people who drive that are younger.
I think they're mostly playing it for the multiplayer
Yeah.
too. I remember the exact moment that I stopped playing Xbox Live multiplayer with randoms instead of with friends. I think it was in Halo 2 when I was killed by some little 12-year-old kid, and he was cursing at me so much.
Oh my gosh! But
and I was like,
remember at the end,
what is happening? And I had to stop.
that used to be the big deal though. Is after we would finish the match. This was right before everybody left to play Warcraft.
Yeah.
Remember how everybody would just wait for me to just destroy these little kids? It was so good. I was the foulest dude
Destroy their
on
minds
Xbox Live. Yes,
forever.
I'm really surprised I didn't get banned for the stuff that I would say about them and their family and their parents and their
It was pretty good.
pets and who knows what. I was the problem. Yeah, there's nothing else I could say about it. So yeah, I've also played some King of Fighters 13.
Yeah, how was that?
Because like everybody else said, I buy too many games and whatever. It's good. It's King of Fighters. If you like King of Fighters, you'll like this. The net code is, what's the best way I can say it? It's not bad. It's certainly better than the other SNK games that have been released lately. And I know that's a lot of people's their apprehension to buying the game is the net code. It's not fantastic. It's not 100%. But if you get a good match of like a 3-bar match or a 4-bar match, you're not going to have any issues. 2 gets a little iffy, but it's not the slideshow that I've seen from other SNK games. I'm not an expert at it.
The main intimidating thing for me
like
for King of Fighters is that I know that Street Fighter has a lot of characters, but for me, like King of Fighters has so many different characters, and because I haven't played as many SNK games, like I just don't know them as well. So like.
You don't know the inputs as well.
And they're different. Like SNK games have different inputs, so it's really hard for me to get used to. I mean, I really like the King of Fighters games and the Fatal Fury series of games.
It looks fantastic.
I love the art design. I've always liked the character design for those games, but it's just hard for me to get used to. Like I'd like to get into it though.
But King of Fighters is kind of more Japanesey, than something like Street Fighter, which has more universal.
Well, yeah,
I feel.
You know what? I won't even call it more Japanesey. It's more Asian, because you've got all the Korean fighters, you've got all the Muay Thai fighters, you've got what American fighters do you have? Like the Fatal Fury guys?
Yeah,
that's about it. The Ikari Warriors.
Geese Howard, Terry Bogard.
Is Geese American? That's a common American game, right? Geese.
Well, I think Geese. Well, no, but he's like from Southtown or whatever for Fatal Fury. Maybe that's it. He's not in the game.
He's from fictional America.
Up in a gi and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like Podunk.
Japanese.
Athena is also in the game.
Oh, she's got that Ultra, that super desperation move.
Wait, is this the same Athena from the NES?
Yes, it's the same Athena.
Yeah, I know they've said it is.
That's a great game, by the way.
It's more the Psycho Soldier Athena than the NES Athena, but it is technically the same character.
That's a great game on the NES.
Isn't it?
Yeah. The one thing that I do like about the game is they have a lot of the interactions between the characters before the fights. Stuff like Street Fighter Alpha had before, like your rival battle. You have one person who would say something. Like just about everybody has some crap to talk about everybody else when you're playing the game. So that's fun.
Do people talk about Mai's boobies all the time? Hot topic of conversation.
Yeah, somebody said something about your mom would be very embarrassed by the outfit you're wearing and stuff like that, and then she took offense to it, and yeah, it was good times. And she's always looking for Andy, so hey, you're fighting Terry, and she's like, "Have you seen Andy anywhere?" And he's like, "Shut up, let's fight."
Andy was a blonde-haired guy, right, with the white outfit?
Yeah.
Was it Andy Bogard?
Yeah.
Terry
That's
Bogard's brother.
Mm-hmm. Right. You got it.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, look at that.
I know a little bit.
You know enough characters.
Some of the
His father
backstories.
was killed by geese.
He's read Blue Mary and King, and who else do I like? I mean, Maya's
Billy
cool,
Kane.
Theo. Do they have like a million Orochi characters?
What about Rock
There's
Howard?
Yori and
Is Rock Howard in the game? Who's like him?
No, Rock. All of the Garou, Mark of the Wolf people, they're all in the backgrounds of the.
Is he making an appearance?
Yeah, Nishwood Butt is in the back of like 2 of the backgrounds. He's in one of them, and it's really weird because there's all these jungle animals, and then Nushwood is just chilling out there.
Well,
It might be a little racist.
I guess if
don't
the
know.
game has
Child.
Rio, I mean, it doesn't really need Kushnu Butt because they're the same character.
Well, yeah, you do have the Rio and Robert and all them
Is
from
Shermie in
Art
it?
of Fighting.
'Cause I like Shermie.
I don't think Shermie's in it.
What? Fuck.
You could probably show me a picture of Shermie and not tell me who she is, and I wouldn't know. So that's that.
She's a grappler, kind of.
She has hair over the eyes. That's all I know.
Hair over the... Oh, no, she's not. The only grapplers in the game, I think, are the Ikari Warriors and Raiden.
Is that chick that hangs out with Ikari Warriors on there? I forgot her name, but I liked her.
Oh, Leona. Yeah, I use
Leona?
Leona a little bit.
Leona. Yeah, that's it, Leona. I like her.
The people I use most of the time is Mai, King, and Terry. Every now and then I'll use Leona instead of Terry. But people are a lot better at that game than I am, and it's not like Street Fighter where you can kind of know if you're playing this and you get juggled and you're playing against somebody who knows, you're ruined. It sucks, but whatever.
So is it like a really loose kind of engine where you just stay in the air forever with a string of moves, or?
Sort of. Think of infinites from like Street Fighter Alpha 3 and stuff like that. I'm sure they're not infinite. You know, they're probably playing well within the boundaries of the system. But they have, and again, I haven't played a lot of it. There's you hit all 4 of the attack buttons, and your second gauge goes away, and you move a little faster, almost like custom combos from 2. Yeah. So again, I gotta spend some more time with it. The mission mode, which would be like the trials in Street Fighter 4, are a lot more strict with the inputs. Like, you have to know exactly what you're doing or it's not going to work. So that's nice, but it makes me want to throw my joystick across the room.
And hit the baby.
Yes. No. Don't do that.
Don't hit the baby.
And other than KOF, I got Battlefield 3 the other day.
Oh, what was that?
And that's fun. I got it because it was cheap. That and Assassin's Creed were some Black Friday deals. But Battlefield 3, I realized that it's one of those games where everybody who has been playing it has all of these wonderful weapons, and I don't. So I just have to eat crap for like a week or two before I get everything up to where I need to be. Because everybody has such a incredible advantage over anything that I have right now. But it's fun. I got into a good squad game with some other TNL people, and we won. I didn't contribute much, but we won. So I can't complain about it. I just feel like I don't.
You
help
definitely
out.
held up that back rank.
I did. It was like no
Contributed
kills, 18 losses, and I was just like, yeah, doing work.
Just feeding the enemy in Battlefield 3.
I really am. And the problem with that is, you have tickets, and tickets are just lives. So if you're trying to assault a base and your team starts off with 200 tickets, I cost them 1/10 of their tickets. So, bad times. I gotta do better. And lastly, I've been playing some Skyrim. I found the Hogwarts of Skyrim up in some janky old winter town. Because I'd only been doing the main quest for a while, and I got not tired of it, but I wanted to play a mage, and I figured it would be best if I go to the Hogwarts. So now I'm doing that. Haven't finished all of it. I just found like some crazy orb down in the basement of wherever it was that I was at. And he said, hey, go talk to the Archmage. And there's this one dude who's mean mugging every single time I see him. And I really want to kill him because he looks at me funny. And that's a problem I have in this game. If you talk bad to me in Skyrim or you look at me funny, you're probably going to die in your sleep. That's just how I play the game.
In their sleep?
Yeah. No, I wait until they fall asleep and then I lockpick the door and then it's just dead. It's good times. Every time.
No, I kill them outright.
Oh, you just do it right in the street.
I usually like turn on sneak and start like hopping behind them and wait for them to stop going, Sir, stop following me. And as soon as they turn around,
you just cut them.
Stab them from behind, and like no one sees the crime in the middle of town. That's amazing.
Fantastic.
Like
I was doing something at night, and I didn't think anybody was near me because it's the Winterhold or whatever the place is called, and it's very dark because of all the snow. And it didn't say that I was detected, so I went ahead and I picked a lock for somebody that had talked badly to me. but the guard saw it, and he was just like, "How would you choose to pay for this?" And it's like, you can either try to fight the guard, you can go to jail and wait, I think, and then you can just pay the bounty. So I just paid the 5 gold, and then I went back and killed the person and stole everything they had because he cost me 5 gold in addition to calling me names. But
I actually killed a guy in the middle of guard barracks. It was a quest. I think it was for Dark Brotherhood, and this guy's walking back and forth in the middle of the barracks, and it's like, if you actually alert the guards, they'll all wake up, and there's like 10 of them in there. And I just killed this guy right when one of the guards turned around, but one of them still kind of saw me, and he comes over and he's like, "How do you want to pay for your crime?" And there's like, bounty 40 gold.
Yeah.
I'm part of the guild, 330 gold. And it was like, I was like, paid him, and he was just like, "Oh, okay. We didn't see anything here." And they all
we're just gonna
walked
turn
off.
around.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good times. So that's pretty much all I've been doing. But I know, Chris, you've been playing some more Skyrim. So if you have anything else you want to add into that,
The other amazing scene that I actually had in Skyrim, I think this is amazing. I was talking to this guy out in the wilderness. I was walking through and bumping into this random dude, and he's talking to me, and I hear this roar, but I'm not really sure what it belongs to, and we're still chatting. And this dragon head
you better pray it's not
pokes
a bear.
in from off screen. It pokes in from the right side of the screen, and there's just a little head kind of sitting there, and I'm like, what's going on? And because I'm talking with this guy, I'm locked in conversation with him. I can't turn my camera. And the dragon head disappears, and I'm like, is there a scripted event going on? And the dragon head pops back in, and it starts breathing fire on the guy, but he's still talking with me as though we're totally cool. And the head disappears again, and then comes back, and the guy finally finishes his conversation, and I turn over, and it was just a completely random dragon who happened to land and just kept poking his head in our conversation. And
He's
began
like,
breathing
oh,
fire
you were
on us.
finished?
He's a very rude dragon.
Rude as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually reached the same point you did in Hogwarts. I found the giant sphere and went, that's cool, and then went off and started doing other quests.
See, I'm gonna finish everything. I don't like to just stop, except for the main quest, which I explicitly just said that I went off and gone on a tangent. This one, I'm gonna see it through because I tried that stuff with Oblivion, and I mean Oblivion was a worse game overall. But I did a little bit of the Thieves quest in Oblivion, and then I did some Assassin stuff, and I was just like, But that was a good way for me to get lost in what I was doing and then really not care about the game at all. So I'm gonna do everything I can in the mage quarters.
Like, I polished off one of them. I don't remember which one. Like, I just, went in, did all the quests, finished up. I think it was the, I can't even think of what they're called. They're not the Brotherhood. It's that group of guys that are in Whiterun. The secret group. But I did that, and then, I'm halfway through Dark Brotherhood and halfway through Thieves Quest, and, partway into the Mages Guild. And it was each time I've been alright, I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. Oh, but this other quest is right here. And I keep doing that. I got to stop it. I got to focus and just plow through. But man, it's so rough. But the other thing I've been playing was I finished off Assassin's Creed Revelations earlier this week, and which was actually really good. I mean, I enjoy the Assassin's Creed games, so that happens. But they made a lot of improvements. There's some things which aren't that great, but overall, I think they did a really good job with this. But what I have actually been loving is the multiplayer, which...
What was... I don't want to interrupt too much, but what was your playtime on Revelations?
I'd have to look it up. I don't know where they said it. I know Assassin's Creed 2 took me 24 hours. Brotherhood was something close to that, or around that, I think a little bit more. I have to check to see what this was. I mean, it took me a couple days to get through, so it's got to be somewhere in the 20s
15?
range.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Maybe it was. I did 100% of the, sync ratio on the story missions. I didn't do, all the side quest stuff. Yeah. It's really not hard. I did almost all of it. There were, only 2 missions I screwed up on that I had to go back and do afterwards. But I'm loving the multiplayer, which I was kind of expecting it to be, okay, but it's so good. I love the fact that it actually promotes the whole idea of Assassin's Creed, like, blending in out in the open, like, so much more than the actual single-player game does. Like, single-player game, you can run around, murk people all day, and then go blend in with the crowd when you feel like it. And multiplayer is 100% about looking like an NPC at all times.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I really... Now, did you play Brotherhood for the multiplayer? I forget.
No, I didn't. Like, I was kind of going to, and I was like, I'll just hold off and play Revelation.
So this is the first time you really had, like, a interaction with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's been fantastic. There's one mode I have a problem with because you have to, which is assassinate, because you have to, like, target someone and then hold left trigger to lock on. And for some reason, something about it feels really janky, and I keep not locking on to people I want to. And I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but I did absolutely terrible during that. But a lot of the other ones are so good. And it was great. I was doing, I think it was like my second match ever. I had 4 kills and 8 deaths. But because I countered everyone's kills, and because everyone else was playing like it was, you know, an action game, and I was actually doing stealth kills and blending in all the time, I was in first place.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, they actually really reward you for playing the game correctly, which is just fantastic.
That's interesting. Actually, I'm kind of curious about that now.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's weird because when I first heard about it for Brotherhood, I was like, you know, I was kind of part of that camp of, oh boy, it's multiplayer in a single-player game that's just been kind of shoddily added on.
That was what I assumed.
But now that I've actually sat down and played it, but having sat down and played
it's
a
a
good amount
lot
of
of fun.
Yeah, like, it's really well done. And the fact that it actually, you know, promotes the idea of the game better than the single player does is kind of surprising, like the whole playstyle of it.
The main thing about that is, you know, the AI is only scripted to see so much, but when you're playing against people who are looking for you to mess up, that's when you really have to do it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's like so much stuff that you can't even do in the main single player game. Like, if there's someone who's hunting you, and you know that they're hunting you, you can specifically move around, wait for them, and then stun them and run off. And like that sort of thing just doesn't exist in the single player game. Like, you can
the game of cat and mouse that it creates after that.
Right. Like, you can just outright kill people, or you can like kind of hide and then assassinate people and slip them in there, but there isn't any of that, like, here is a serious threat chasing you. If they catch you, it is a single hit kill. So you have to, like, be aware at all times and, like, really watch which way they're going. And it's just, you know, it's done really well. And when you're playing against other people who are also really good, it's fantastic. Like, there was one guy I was trailing. I knew he was a human, but he was acting just like an NPC, and it took so long because I didn't want to spook him for me to finally sneak up and kill him. But when I finally did, like, it was such a great kill.
So you didn't want to spook him. So you didn't run up to him and go, spaghetti!
Spaghetti!
Hey, spaghetti!
Spaghetti!
Getting a Tim and Eric reference there. I like it.
Yeah.
Totally spooked you.
I also at some point need to put on my microphone, even though it is hilarious. Just, there was one guy we were doing corruption, which is where it's a mode that shows up in various multiplayer games under different names, but you basically have, like, as one group kills the second group becomes part of the first group. And so one group is constantly growing bigger, trying to assimilate everyone.
So it's like zombies.
Yeah, it's like that. And so I was one of the uncorrupted, and I knocked out this one kid 3 times in a row. Like, he kept trying to run up to me, and I would just stun him right away. And finally, on like the third one, out of my speakers just comes this, "God damn it, stop that!" And I just vanished off into the crowd, and it was like, fantastic.
I can totally imagine a thing where you're hunting somebody down and you're about to get them, and you lock onto the wrong person, and you tackle the dude next to them by accident. And that would make me crack up pretty bad. I think
it happens all the time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Actually, during some of those corrupted ones, I was playing as a corrupted, and you look down and people can make clones of themselves so that you can't tell which one is the right character. And so what I would do is I knew that all my teammates were coming in on this one guy, and so I would jump into the crowd in hopes that I would get the right one, and I would kill a civilian by accident and so the person who was real would immediately punch me in the face and knock me out, and then be surrounded by like 4 guys, and one of them would kill him, and then another one would just kick him in the head once he was down, because you can do ground kills to like get bonus points. Like if you didn't get the main kill and you happen to have that person as a target. So it was always just like gang bang kill, punt, and everyone that scatters off again. But yeah, it's awesome. I love it so much. I did not even expect. I don't know how long the high will last, but it's
pretty cool. It sounds
it's a very tense game.
It reminds me a lot of the Spies versus Mercs thing that Splinter Cell had going on, just because it's something
Really?
so completely different from the usual multiplayer. I'm not saying they're similar in a gameplay perspective. I'm just saying that they're very similar in that there's something unique in the multiplayer world, so it makes it instantly
I hope it lasts.
interesting.
I played Spies vs. Mercs for a while with Pandora Tomorrow, and in the sequel, Chaos, what was it called? Chaos Theory? Yeah,
Chaos Theory.
I thought those games were both amazing in the multiplayer. Just so unique and so different. I know that after a while, people would invent their own unique games, like like Tag or something they'd come up with, like that were really pretty lame, and then they would kick out people if you refused to play their lame made-up games and not the actual game with them.
Yeah.
So that was that. I mean, I love the idea of the multiplayer, and I loved when I actually managed to succeed at it. It was fantastic. But I remember that the other people that I played that game with on TNL were like vastly better at it than I was. So like I would always bring down whatever team that I was on, because I was not as completely knowledgeable in the multiplayer as they were. So even though I really enjoyed the multiplayer, I was never all that great at it. And I just wish it was still around today so that I could become better at it, I guess. If that makes any sense. So.
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of thought the same thing as Mizo at first, too, which was like, wow, this is like the best stealth multiplayer game I've played since Spies vs. Mercs. I just didn't ever want to avoid I wanted to avoid making that comparison, because I didn't want people to get the idea that it plays similar at all.
Right, yeah,
it's
not
just
at
that
all.
it happens to be a stealth game and multiplayer. That's really amazing. So yeah, it's definitely something that should not be overlooked by people if they have any interest in stealth games. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing. Just too much Skyrim, and Christ, I packed in so much Assassin's Creed.
Oh, so we're all having a lot of fun. That's good.
You said you packed in so much Assassin's Creed.
Yep.
I want to wrap this up and
ass.
play Zelda some more. Today's my day off, and I've been waiting a long time for this.
Okay, so
And you guys
don't
will
wake
shut
up
the
at
fuck
6
up.
p.m. or 8 p.m.
have we talked to everybody about? Have we gone around the round table here? Talked about what we're playing. I think we
so.
can wrap this up then. For everyone who's listening to this podcast, next week we hope to talk a little bit about the Stop Online Piracy Act. This is a pretty hot issue that a lot of people have been talking about on TNL and in the general media. It is a big thing, and it's actually coming before the House and the Senate as early as December 5th, according to what I've read in some form. So despite the fact that Congress doesn't seem to be doing that much these days, it actually does stand some chance of being taken up for discussion and possibly even a vote. So I hope to do some research on it and be able to talk fairly intelligently about it next week. And if anybody listening to this podcast has any questions about the Stop Online Piracy Act, or opinions, or things that you think that we should talk about,
or you just want to get your stupid voice on the
or you just want to
because you're an egomaniac.
get your voice on there in some fashion,
like me.
Yeah, leave your questions on the podcast thread, which we still do have, right, Nick?
Yes,
and
we have a separate one for every
right.
podcast, so people can.
So leave your questions there, or call the podcast number at 312 233-2865 and leave a message, right, Nick?
Yeah, and we're also going to be bringing in. We've been planning to do this for a while now, but we have so actually. I think Chuck's the first time you were on the show. I said today's resident expert on Metal Gear is Chuck's. Because I wasn't sure if you were going to...
Yeah, I kind of just never got the memo.
Yeah, you're the guy that never leaves. No, thank God you didn't leave. But I wasn't sure if you would be doing it week after week. And we're going to have Bon, of course, who is a fighting game legend, the founder of TNL, the founder of a lot of things. A very talented guy is going to be on talking about fighting games. He's really an expert at that. Hopefully,
a lot of things Nick doesn't want to promote.
Hopefully, in the next few weeks, he's a great guy. And if anybody else has any ideas for the show, just leave it 312-233-2865. We're gonna finally put this thing on iTunes. This is our 5th podcast in this series of podcasts. So I think we kind of worked out the kinks enough, and maybe get the word out. And I know there are a lot of people out there who want to participate, and we're here. We're going to be here. At least I will.
All right. Well, I guess we'll take it out then. And remind everyone to continue visiting the TNL website at the-nextlevel.com. That's the-nextlevel.com. And visit us at the forums.
Or, of course, sorry to interrupt,
yes.
but you can always Google the Next Level, and we're usually the first or one of the first links, at least whenever I Google it.
That's how your grandma finds Facebook.
Exactly. One day we will only use search engines and bookmarks to get to places.
Yeah, we won't actually type things in search bars.
Yeah, who wants to type the-next level? Come on.
I use bookmarks.
And just to be clear, it is a hyphen, not a dash.
Not a dash.
Not a hymen.
Not a hymen either.
If you're super cool, the Next Level is your homepage, like myself.
Yeah.
True.
So, okay.
All right.
Catch you all later.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
All right.
Next week.
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 All right.
Next